Welcome everyone to the San Rafael City Council meeting for Monday, February 7th, 2022. I will ask the City Clerk to call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Here.
Councilmember Bushy.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Yeren-Skalani.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. All five of us are here. So welcome to the City Council meeting. Present-day San Rafael is located in the traditional lands of the coastal Miwok people. And today we recognize this history as well as those who still reside here. If this is your first time tuning in to a San Rafael City Council meeting, welcome. On the screen, in addition to the council, you see our staff, and we love starting out the meeting this way. It's our way to connect and to show the public all the fantastic professionals that help our city to function beautifully every single day. So thank you, staff. We know it's been some rough, I'd like to say 2 years, and we appreciate all that you do in dedication for our city. February, I don't know if you're like me, I can't believe it's February already. I'm still getting used to it being 2022, but it's an auspicious month. Chinese New Year was last year, and we join our community in welcoming the Year of the Tiger. In addition, it's Black History Month, and we'll have a proclamation and a presentation on tonight's agenda. So thank you for tuning in. If you were here before we started, I was talking about the Olympics, so I know we're competing with the Olympics this evening, so we appreciate if you're spending time with us tonight to virtually be here and be a part of the city business. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to the City Clerk, who can share how folks can participate this evening. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. At this time, I would ask staff to turn their cameras off. Thank you. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube, and viewers can provide public comments by telephone by calling 669-900-9128 and using the meeting ID 817-3692-0337#, or they can comment and watch directly through Zoom using the link on the agenda. If you're commenting over the telephone, please press *9 when Mayor Kate opens the public comment period. Once you've heard the notification that the host is inviting you to speak, you'll need to press *6 to unmute yourself. If you're commenting through Zoom, please use the raise hand button to let us know that you'd like to speak, and then wait until you've been unmuted. If you experience any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofsanrafael.org. Closed captioning is available for this meeting and is accessible by selecting the drop-down next to the red live button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen and selecting View Stream on Custom Streaming Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. The first item on our agenda every meeting is open time for public expression. So this is anything that is not on the consent calendar or on the agenda.
To comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. And if commenting by phone, you can press *9. And once you've heard the notification that I'm inviting you to speak, you'll need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to provide public comment, and they will be muted once time has elapsed. And I do see a hand raised.
Good evening. This is Lori Schifrin. At the last council meeting, I had requested to see the statistics that were promised to Micah about the 3rd Street corridor, and was told somebody would get in touch with me, and I'd like to know how long I'm supposed to wait because I have not heard from anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And we should email, because I'm not sure exactly what data Councilwoman Yeren-Skalani was waiting for, but please do email the City Clerk or myself with your request, and we will ensure that you get the information you need. So thank you.
I see no other hands raised, so I'm going to give everyone just a few more seconds. Once again, you'll press *9 if you just called in and you're dialing in by phone, or you'll use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I see no other public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment and turn it over to the city manager. This evening, we have the assistant city manager stepping in as City Manager Schutz is out of town. Welcome, Christina Lilovich. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kate and council members. Good evening. It's wonderful to be here. I'm glad I can be here so Jim can have some time off. I have 2 items to update the community and yourselves about. One is the potential of a strike coming up with Golden Gate Transit's Union Local ATU 1575. On January 24th, they did authorize a strike. I spoke with Marin Transit officials today, and they're saying that at this point, it's not clear if that's going to happen or not. And it was just a move to authorize the strike. If this were to happen, it would have significant impact, not just on the regional bus service, but also on local routes operated by Golden Gate Transit on behalf of Marin Transit. The routes do serve the canal, and those are 22, 23, X, 29, 35, 36, and 71. I just thought I would mention them, not because it's happening yet, but just to make sure everybody's on notice that these would be the impacted routes. Marin Transit does have a contingency plan where they would try to backfill drivers to really reduce and minimize the impact on riders. They have an outreach plan that they've developed, and I did confirm with them today that if a strike were to happen, they would be, if that were to actually be initiated, that they would be engaging their outreach plan, and all of those materials and information would be also translated into Spanish. So just wanted to give everyone an update on that. And then we have some upcoming community conversation events that I wanted to make sure the community is aware of. We're really excited about this new, what the City Council and Mayor are calling their 2022 Inclusive Resident Engagement Framework. We've gotten a lot of feedback from some community circle conversations, one that we had in December 9th. And the focus really is to have specific, now that we have districts in our city, to have community conversations that are focused on each one of those districts 3 or 4 times a year. And in addition to that, Mayor Kate having 4 citywide community conversations. So District 1 in the Canal neighborhood had their first district community conversation with Councilmember Scalati, which was on January 25th. It was incredibly well attended. It was a really great event. We had a really good conversation with the community, and we're following up on some of their requests and concerns in real time. We have 3 of these meetings coming up. All of them over Zoom, unfortunately, will hopefully will be in person soon, but in an abundance of caution with Omicron, all of the upcoming February district community conversations will be over Zoom. So the first one is actually on Wednesday night with Councilmember Maribeth Bushy for District 3. So I believe I'm going to have to double check. I think that those are starting at 5:30. And the information with the Zoom link information is on the city's website. You can find that at www.cityofsanrafael.org/community-conversations. So you can find like a calendar, when are the upcoming meetings, what's the Zoom information. The next one following that is Councilmember Eli Hills, District 2 on February the 17th. And then Councilmember Rachel Kurtz on February 22nd, District 4. So I just thought I'd mention that if you're not sure which district you're in, but you want to attend your district community conversation, you can go to the city's website also, cityofsanrafael.org/department/district-elections. And there's a map on that webpage that has the 4 districts by number. And then if you look, there's a little magnifying glass. If you hover over that, you can enter your address and it will pop up and tell you which district you're in. And then, so those are for February. And then Mayor Kate is having her first citywide community conversation on March 17th via Zoom. And we'll forecast that in the city manager's snapshot as well and give an update when we get closer to that one. But I just wanted to make sure you knew that one was on the horizon as well. One last thing for Mayor Kate's community conversations on the city's webpage. You'll see on that same community conversations webpage, there's a box you could click on that says request a topic of discussion for Mayor Kate's joint community conversations. So if you would like to talk about something specific, this is citywide topics, please go to the city's website and submit that form. It's super easy. It'll take you 2 minutes to fill out, and then staff will gather that data and figure out which is the right meeting to have that particular agenda topic coming up. So that's all I had for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. Before we open up to public comment, I want to underscore, if you're listening and you didn't get all of the web addresses, you can always just go in the search bar. We have a fantastic city website, and you can put in community conversations and it will pop to the top. And in addition, you can go listen to other district conversations. You don't just have to listen to your neighborhood. If you're interested, if you live in Terra Linda, you want to know what's happening out in East San Rafael, you can definitely attend. So I just wanted to ensure that all are welcome to all of those conversations. So thank you. With that, unless there are any questions from my colleagues, which I don't see any, I will open it up for public comment on this item.
Thank you. To comment on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature. And if commenting by telephone, please press *9. I see no hands raised. I'll give everyone a couple more seconds. I see no public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment. Bring it back for council member reports. Again, I see that we have a full Zoom room, and I know that we're streaming as well. We take a moment for each council member to share the meetings they've attended. In addition to our council meetings, you have a hard working group of folks, and this is our time to report out on what we've been doing and update each other as well as the community. So I will start with Vice Mayor Kurtz, please.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Kate, and good evening, everyone. Couple of updates. I was attending the MCC, so Marin County Council, mayors and council members, the homeless committee, which I am chairing with Councilmember Renee Goodard from Fairfax. And we had an update on the Downtown Streets Team program, as well as discussion about the Community Homeless Fund, which every city contributes, has been in place since 2016, and is actually expired right now. So we are discussing the Community Homeless Fund. And so there'll be more information about that soon. I spoke at the Terra Linda Homeowners Association meeting, their annual meeting, and they're actually in discussion right now of becoming a neighborhood association and expanding their boundaries, collapsing the Santa Margarita neighborhood into the Terra Linda. So it's all good. And so that's work that's underway. And then Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, MWPA, it's really about that. We talk about, for years and years, we've said fire season. And now the nomenclature is really that Marin County is becoming a fire adapted community. We all have to be fire adapted. And so that's new language we all need to use because there isn't a fire season. It is every day of the year. And a lot of work is going on in the planning right now, thanks to Chief White and Quinn Gardner and many others. They're doing the planning right now for next year's, the work that has to happen. So more to come about than that. And that's it.
Thank you. And you also organized the Mont Marin neighborhood meeting.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Which Mayor Kate spoke at.
I was going to mention, or you can mention it. Great. Thank you. Councilmember Bushy.
I was pleased to represent the City of San Rafael at the Loch Lomond Oversight Committee meeting that happens every month. This development has been going on, as Mayor Kate can remember, for a couple of decades now, and we're going to shepherd it across the line. Some new houses are going up on that site, and we continue to monitor and resolve issues as they come up with that significant development out in this district of San Rafael. I also attended the San Rafael Sanitation Board meeting. It was a largely routine meeting where we heard updates on some issues that we've been dealing with. Interestingly, we also received descriptions of 3 recent sewage overflows that have occurred in San Rafael. All of them were promptly found, were cleaned up, and remedial measures have put in place to make sure that they don't happen again. But they did occur, and they've all been reported to the correct regulatory agency. So we are on it, but those events did happen. And this week, I'm looking forward to our first district meeting. That will be fun. District 3 is I'm just going to put it out there. We're the Rockin' Bunch. It's going to be fun if you want to come. If you want to be with the cool kids, that's us. So come by and see what's shaking Wednesday night at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you. I think your colleagues might push back a little bit on the cool kids, but hey, we can all be the cool kids in our own way. Thank you. Councilmember Lorenz Gulati.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Good evening, everybody. It's been like a very busy last few weeks, so lots of different meetings. I'll try to be brief. We had our quarterly climate action plan forum, and that one we talk about the adapting to sea level rise, the grant that we got, and a little bit of information about that, how we are planning for sea level rise. The MCEL had some updates on climate adaptation as well. And then we talk about the SB 1383, which is a 5 climate change by recycling organic waste. And this is coming at the state level, and see how we can actually do that locally here. So we also had like a community conversation event, as Christine was mentioning, and was very well attended. I always love to hear from the community, and they are amazing. So I love to participate in this type of meetings. We had our second East San Rafael Parking Task Force. Parking is a big issue in East San Rafael. I think it's going very well. One of the ideas is to establish partnerships between private businesses and local government. So at night when the businesses are closed, maybe they can be used for parking. So we had, I believe it was the city manager from Sacramento, the person in charge of parking from Sacramento, giving us some of the pros and cons of a program that they have established in there already. So it's very promising. We are looking at a lot of different options, but it's good to start thinking of some options that they were not considered before. Let's see. We also had the Canal CBTP, which is the Canal Neighborhood Community-Based Transportation Plan, which is a plan specifically for the canal and public transportation and different ways that people move around the canal. So that was the first meeting. And I will finish by saying I also attended the MCCMC for Climate Action Committee, and we are talking about how we can, as all the different cities, we can collaborate or around the county's reusable footwear ordinance. That's coming to all the cities, and see how we can work together, not just for that ordinance, but in general, as we have different initiatives from the county, how can we, all the cities, work together to be more effective? And that is for me tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. And yes, District 2 would have something to say about who's more rocking Councilmember Becky, but gauntlet thrown. I have one meeting to report on, which was for the City County Schools Liaison Committee meeting, which took place on Monday, the January 24th. This is where San Rafael City Schools, Miller Creek School District, Marin County, and City of San Rafael come together to make sure we're exchanging information, understanding what each other is doing, focused on our schools. Of note, COVID mitigations, I thought was something to report out on, just the distribution of KN95 masks and test kits at critical times, namely before some of the holiday weekends. Just making sure that we're as prepared as possible. I thought that was a very smart and targeted move. We continue to understand and ask questions around equity, namely around transportation and language access. I continue to be very positive of how the leadership of these districts are managing. So anyway, I want to report out on that. That's all I have to report on this week. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it was almost 3 weeks since we last met. So many of you have covered meetings I have also attended. So I'll bring up the ones that I attended on my own. And first one's SMART, which is the Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit. As you know, we have a new general manager, Eddie Cummins, and what he's doing is really having us step back and look at the bigger pictures with the change in ridership, funding structures, the pandemic, and are there things that we're going to want to be doing from a strategic standpoint as we look 1 year out, 5 years out, 10 years out? So we had a conversation about that at our last SMART meeting, and what does that look like? I will be part of a subcommittee looking at the mission and vision, and I want to say starting at square one, because we're not doing that. We know from Measure Q what the mission of SMART is, but really how does that align with what the current priorities are? So stay tuned on that. I attended the Marin Economic Recovery Committee, and that is held by the county. County Supervisors Connolly and Arnold convened that group. And we also talked about the reusable foodware ordinance that Councilman Lorenz Gulati talked about. What's different about this lens, the people on the virtual screen are Chamber of Commerce representatives, and they were resoundingly, no, now this is not the right time. And the biggest pushback was because you can go into Safeway and the same rules don't apply to a Safeway that they would to your favorite restaurant down the street. You can still get styrofoam containers at the bigger outlets, as it were. So that's part of the disconnect, as well as just layering on additional costs to our smaller businesses. So I think the county is going to put it on the back burner for a little bit, but the conversation is ongoing. We also talked about 1383, SB 1383, which is the composting and recycling. And you're going to keep hearing more and more when you attend our council meetings. This will be a big change for our community. Chief Spiller and myself are part of the Gun Safety Collaborative, which is a collaborative put together by DA Lori Fergoli. And I'll be spearheading. And any of you are welcome to join me in organizing as well as with Chief Spiller and other law enforcement officials, a gun buyback on June 4th. June 5th or June 3rd is one of the accompanying days is National National Violence Awareness Day. So we're going to have a gun buyback in around the same time. So if you're interested, anyone out there who would like to help organize that, do reach out to me. Let me see. Baywave is a county consortium of local jurisdictions and the county, and we had a presentation from Bay Adapt. I highly recommend you can go on the Bay Adapt website. They presented their regional strategy for a rising bay. And the reason it's relevant to San Rafael, in addition to the fact that we're on the bay, their goal is to have us all the communities that touch the bay to adopt a similar resolution. So as we go forward, we're on the same page. They've been working on this for years. It was a fantastic presentation, and you will see at a future meeting that resolution will come before the council to be considered and hopefully adopted. Two more things, transportation related. We had Transportation Authority of Marin. We reviewed, or was reviewed for us, the legislative platform. A lot of transit is around transit dollars. And so we hear from the lobbyists about different bills that are coming down. So we had that presentation. And the part that was very exciting, there are many grants or programs out there, and I don't have the exact numbers, but what two programs that are going to continue, TAM is going to continue to seek funding for, are relevant to San Rafael. One is the Bellum Boulevard off-ramp improvements. So I raised my hand, voiced how important that is, being that we receive a lot of regional traffic through there, and what does that look like? How can we improve upon that? And the second one is the San Rafael Canal Crossing, which has been talked about for a long time. So it's basically saying that we're going to continue, TAM is going to continue to seek those dollars. The dollars haven't been received yet, but it is part of the prioritization. So that's really crucial. And I'm thankful to my TAM colleagues for continuing to support these San Rafael projects. And then finally today at Marin Transit, we had an overview of revenues and expenses for the past couple of years and projecting forward. We're about 70% of pre-COVID ridership. We continue to gain ridership back. Our essential workers use our transit. And it was a great report. And what are we going to do going forward when the federal dollar starts to diminish, and how do we keep up service? So fantastic meeting. You can find that deck presentation on the Marin Transit website. Okay, so with that, and again, thank you to all my colleagues. We're really amplifying the work that we do as a city and as a council, and I appreciate the time that you take outside of this, as well as to come back and report out. So thank you. I will ask the city clerk if there's any members of the public that would like to comment on the city council members' reports.
To comment on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature, and if you're dialing in, you can press *9. I see no hands raised. I'll give everyone a couple more seconds. I see no public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment and bring it back to the consent calendar. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to hold? Okay, not seeing any. I will ask the city clerk to open the public comment, and this will be for then all items A through H.
Thank you. If calling in, you'll need to press *9. And if you're participating on Zoom, you'll use the raise hand feature. I see no hands raised. I do see a hand raised. Just 1 second.
Okay, so we're receiving comment on the consent calendar item A through H. That's what we're waiting for.
Yes, but 1 moment. Go ahead, Marcy, if you can. I received a notification you're on an older version of Zoom, so it's not allowing you to unmute.
I think I just unmuted.
There we go. We got you. Go ahead.
Hi, I wanted to comment on the Los Gamos Drive project.
Okay, so you know what? Actually, excuse me, Marcy, I'm going to interrupt you because that's actually item 7A. So if you can hang, we're happy to take public comment anytime, but it would be great if you could wait till we get to that part of the meeting. It's just item. Okay.
I didn't know how this.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So yeah, we will hear from you when we get to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do have another public comments. Once again, this is for the consent calendar.
I got one short question. What's happening with the transit center, downtown transit center?
Okay, so thank you. Right now we are receiving comments on items, the consent calendar A through H. We'd love to have a report out on the transit center, and hopefully you can attend the next meeting. I'll ask the city manager to give a brief update on that at that time. The way that the meetings are run, we are not able to comment on any items not on the agenda other than a passing reference in that I just did. So appreciate your interest in it, and stay tuned. We will bring that to our next meeting.
So I see no other hands raised for the consent calendar, and that concludes public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment and request, if there's no further questions or comments, I would request a motion in a second.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Galati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is a special presentation. We always enjoy special presentations. I think Sylvia Gonzalez will join us, if my notes are correct. And what I'd like to do is to read the proclamation, and then I'll turn it over to Sylvia. So welcome, Sylvia. So this is a proclamation of the City Council proclaiming the month-long celebration of Black History Month in February. In 1976, as part of the nation's bicentennial, Black History Week was expanded and became established as Black History Month. And Americans of all walks of life have come together since then during the month of February to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans. Black culture is American culture, and Black stories are essential to the ongoing story of America, and it is essential that we take the time to celebrate the immeasurable contributions of Black Americans and honor the legacies and achievements of generations past. The Black History Month theme of 2022 focuses on the importance of Black health and wellness. This theme considers activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have done to be well. Black health and wellness not only includes one's physical body, but also emotional and mental health. And I'm proud to say that the City of San Rafael Library and Recreation Department provides resources and programming specifically to educate the community on important topics such as anti-racism and equity. And then I have a URL that I'm not going to read to you, but once again, you can go to the srpubliclibrary.org website, and there will be, if you put it in the search bar, and whatever you're searching for, the topics will come down related to this initiative. So in closing, we see, whereas the City Council of the City of San Rafael takes great pleasure in recognizing Black History Month, and we urge all residents to join in celebrating the accomplishments of African Americans in the medical field and beyond. So therefore, I, Kate Cullen, on behalf of my colleagues in the council, proclaim this month, February 2022, as Black History Month. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia, and for any comments, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Kate and council members. I'm just happy to accept this proclamation on behalf of the city. As part of a multiracial family, I appreciate the city's acknowledgement of Black History Month and a husband who works in the medical pharma field, it's really important to get messages out about promoting health and wellness among our people of color and communities in the city. So thank you very much for this proclamation.
Thank you for those comments. And I will open it up to public comment on this item. I'll ask the city clerk to join us.
Thank you. So if you're calling in, you'll need to press *9. And if you're using Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature. I see no hands raised. I see no public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment and again, thank the public library for offering resources and programming that our community can partake in. So thank you. Okay, the first item of our public hearing, we have 2 items. The first one is the neighborhood at Los Gamos. I think we have a full Zoom room because folks are interested in hearing about this project, and I will invite, I think, Director Giudice to provide a staff report. Oh, hi, Sean. I'm not sure who's presenting. Okay, oh, everybody's coming on. See, you were getting that last cup of water before you. Director Giudice, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. So tonight we do have a team. Sean Kennings has presented projects in the past, so you may be familiar with him. Sean Kennings worked on this project as the environmental planner and also joined the team to complete the entitlement. So he will be presenting. And Leslie Mendez, she's our planning manager. She took over the project as we were kind of making this transition. So she will be here to support and respond to questions. I'll be available to respond to questions as well. So with that, I'll just go ahead and pass it on to Sean.
Thank you, Ellie. Just want to confirm that everyone can see my screen.
We can. Nope. Yeah, now you're at the front. I saw the conclusion slide first, so yeah, we weren't quite there yet. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Sean Kennings. I'm a land use and environmental planner with LAK Associates. I'm taking over for Jeff Hamilton of MIG. Real quick, say thank you to Jeff and to Shauna Brecker-Reed for all their help and assistance with this up to this point. As Ali said, this is a presentation for the neighborhood at Los Gamos. I will briefly review the project for you, be available for questions, and then the applicant has their own presentation. Tonight before you is a application for a multi-family residential project featuring 192 residential units, of which 10 are dedicated as affordable. It includes a 5,600 square foot grocery store, a 5,000 square foot community center, a total of 225 parking spaces, a community open space and public park, and associated landscaping and site infrastructure on 10.24 acres. The applications tonight are the review and adoption of an initial study with a mitigating negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program, a general plan amendment to change the designation from hillside resource residential to neighborhood commercial mixed use. That's needed to combine the different uses of grocery store, community center, and the residential units. It also requires a zone change to rezone the 2 properties. There's 2 parcels, one from a planned district hillside development overlay and a residential development overlay district to combine to one planned development district that would set its own development standards. There's a vesting tentative map because of the 2 parcels to combine them to make the one project. And then finally, there's the environmental and design review application. Very quickly, here's the project site. It's located off Las Gamos Drive in the North San Rafael commercial, North San Rafael Montmarin area, just south of the YMCA. There's currently a new intersection and traffic light at Lucas Valley Road in Los Gamos. That was part of the Los Gamos Kaiser facility. The project doesn't have direct access off Las Gamos, but it does have an easement that provides access to the project site. Here you can see it if you're looking across Highway 101 from the east to the west. Here's 1401 Los Gamos. Here's the YMCA. The residential units will be here in this sort of unforested area, and the park area would be here off to the left of the screen. Again, it's a 10.24 acre vacant site. There'll be 192 units in 5 total buildings. There'll be a 5,500, 5,600 square grocery store, a 5,000 square foot community center, and the project will have sort of a max height of 58 feet. You can see here the red encompasses the residential buildings, the yellow is the community center, grocery store, and the green here is the park to the south of the residential development. Project will feature 225 parking spaces, with the majority of them underneath or subterranean. Trash will be stored in those parking areas. Majority of the site will be left as unimproved open space. And again, with improved passive park areas, average slope 36%. There is 55 trees that are proposed for removal of the total 285 trees, but the project sponsor is proposing 210 replacement trees, large box, 36 inch, so sort of a larger new tree planting. Here's a quick look at the park area, trying to retrain trees, avoiding site drainages. There'll be children's play areas and a bridge that will cross this ephemeral drainage way. Here's a quick look at sort of what those elevations of the residential units look like. Here's another photo showing exactly the maximum height as taken from final grade. This is the community garden area above the grocery store and community center, places to sit, passive areas for games, gathering spaces. This is a view looking to the west, parking underneath, the market, leasing office, bakery, and you can see how the entirety of the facility is sort of cut into the hillside to reduce the overall mass and scale. Here's typical sections of the residential structures, and again, how the project sort of steps up the hillside. Of the 192 units, you can see the unit breakdown, a mix of sizes and bedrooms. Each individual unit will have its own private space, and the 10% affordable, approximately 20 units, will be scattered throughout. It won't be just one studio or one bedroom type. It'll be a mix of all units. As proposed, the project is consistent with the applicable general plan, the new general plan designation of neighborhood commercial mixed use policies, as well as its own zoning code standards. And those list of the general plan policies and the zoning codes are attached in the staff report. And I'd like to point out that the applicant is applying for certain concessions and waivers under the state density bonus law because of the provision of affordable housing. Effectively, those concessions and waivers are for the added height, 58 feet total, and the overall parking. I think there's a needed reduction for the commercial aspect for the grocery store. The project's consistent with the hillside design guidelines. It is a hillside project. It's clustered. It's using articulation to break it up. Parking's tucked behind. Each unit has decks. There's a village commons. And the hillside park is approximately an acre of common open space. As mentioned earlier, there was an environmental document prepared, in this case, an initial study mitigated negative declaration. I actually was the independent consultant, and the project was published, I believe it was October 27th for a 30-day review period. The initial study found that there were no significant impacts that could not be reduced to less than significant through mitigation. Mitigation measures as documented here for aesthetics, air quality, biology, cultural resources, geology and soils, hydrology, and water quality, and tribal cultural resources. Most of those impacts and mitigation measures are for construction-related issues, ensuring that the construction of the project obviously does not impact or adversely affect the environment. And again, the initial study and MMRP are attached to your staff report. During the public comment, the city did receive a letter from the Department of Fish and Wildlife that requested more information and/or sort of stronger language for issues related to the drainage ways, loss of trees, and some special status species and plants. Staff was able to modify the initial study. It was to address some of these issues through pre-construction surveys, and the document was upgraded and confirmed with the Fish and Wildlife. The project has been reviewed by the Design Review Board in October, unanimously approved the design of the project, adding some requests to the overall design for dark color palette, planting of trees, mitigating tall retaining walls through step backs. Those comments were incorporated into the conditions of approval, and the applicant has revised their project accordingly. Similarly, the project was reviewed by the Planning Commission in December of 2021, unanimous approval except for two absence. There was a discussion of solar panels on the roof, making sure that it was pre-wired, making sure that the applicant committed to the maximum amount of solar panels, also asking the applicant to make sure that the parking spaces were pre-wired for electric vehicles and that they would have chargers, asking the applicant to institute a transportation demand management program for such things as carpools, vouchers, electric charging areas. And again, the applicant provided a floor plan showing the affordable units. Those conditions were incorporated into the document. Similarly, the applicant submitted a revised plan district development standard document to allow for some flexibility should the leasing office, community room, and the grocery store need changes in the future. And that way these uses could be incorporated into the overall document, and the future applicant would not have to come back to the city to request those changes. So in summary, this project is providing housing on a challenging site. It does meet the intent of the hillside design guidelines, minimize grading as possible. Majority of trees are preserved. There's architecture and landscaping are interesting and attractive. The proposed general plan amendment to neighborhood commercial mixed use and the zone change to PD are appropriate ways to allow for this mixed use development with high intensity housing on this site. And again, with the waivers and concessions requested through the state density bonus, this project does meet the development standards. And the project will be beneficial. The grocery store will provide an added benefit to the residents because it helps reduce traffic and air quality impacts and provides a neighborhood resource. So in conclusion, staff is recommending to the council that you adopt the resolutions for the initial study, mitigated negative declaration and MMRP, that you adopt the resolution approving the general plan amendment, that you pass the ordinance, the first reading of the ordinance to approve the zone change to PD, and that you adopt the resolution for the environmental design review application investing tentative map. Now you can approve the applications as proposed with modifications, or you can continue the hearing. You can also deny the project. And with that, I will take questions.
Thank you so much, Sean. I didn't know if we wanted to have the applicant team present prior to taking questions. Director Giudice, what do you recommend?
Sorry, I would recommend if there are any questions of Sean to go ahead and provide those at this point, and then allow the applicant to respond to questions, to present their project, and that may also answer some of the questions, and then they may be able to answer additional questions if additional questions come up.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Vice Mayor Kurtz. Any questions? And maybe if you stop sharing your screen unless we need it, just it's easier to see each other. Okay, thank you, Sean.
Thank you for the update, Sean. It's very helpful to have that background and information. I don't really have any direct questions for the overall project, so I'm looking for the further presentation.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Bushy.
One quick question, the modification to allow for different uses of the, what is envisioned to be a grocery store and the leasing office, how big of a scope is that? How big of a change can they make to those uses before they have to come back for a revised use permit?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not like a very large scope. It's more so to say that if it needs to be some other type of commercial use, that they can make that change without coming back. So it can't go from a grocery store to like a auto parts store or something like that. But it's a finer sort of narrow focus, but enough that should the grocery store need to change to some other type of general commercial, they can make that change without a significant application and revision.
So it has to stay with the definition of a commercial establishment.
It's in the language, it's in the conditions they provided.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Micah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I don't have any further questions. I would love to hear from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I have 3 questions. Obviously, if I have more, I hope I can ask them later. There was interest in the exploration of how much of the moving away from natural gas to electrification. Is that something that we should defer to the presentation, or is that something you can comment on now?
I do believe that there were some questions today requesting, and I believe that you were provided that by the clerk, but about some of the more sustainable features of the project. And I do know that the applicant is prepared to speak to those.
Thank you. This is maybe tactical, but I know that in a time of drought, this question comes up from time to time, which is in the mitigation of dust during construction. Oftentimes water is used in construction sites. Do we know if we're going to be able to use recycled or non-potable water for that use?
I think it's a great question, and I don't know if that has made any sort of headway with whether MMWD or North Marin or whether the city has a specific requirement for recycled water. But I think that's something that if the applicant agrees to is a good component of the requirement.
And if I can add, I know the North San Rafael area is the area where there's purple pipe already laid. And my understanding from Marin Municipal Water District is that they're trying to encourage the use of purple pipe and recycled water wherever there's that opportunity. So, and, again, I'll kind of summarize what Sean just said, that the applicant, I believe, is very committed to a very green project, and will allow them to add to that.
Great, thanks. I'll just defer.
Let me just jump in on that too, because CMSA actually has recycled water, and Councilmember Bushy knows this as well. So in the truck, oh, you're making a face, but where they have the recycled water truck.
It's not as good as what they have at Las Colinas. Las Colinas is useful for irrigation, but for dust control, Councilmember Hill is absolutely correct. The water available for CMSA would work for that type of purpose. But Las Colinas is probably closer, and we like purple pipes better for so if we can possibly get it hooked up to their system, that would be even better, I think. But I'd love to hear from the applicant about their whole plan for using recycled water or any type of non-potable water on their site.
Thank you. Sorry, Councilmember Hill, we just wanted to jump in on that.
No, that's it.
Question.
I'll
Go
defer
ahead.
at this point. I'll wait for the presentation and I'll have a follow-up question.
Okay, thank you. And I just had one question. That was on the TDM, which is traditionally it's a transportation plan, and I just don't recall seeing a TDM plan required for development. Councilmember Bush, you might have better memory than I from back when we were in the Planning Commission days. Often it is having to do with schools or medical facilities, but for residential, I haven't seen that, or I don't recall. Could you speak to that? That seems unusual to me.
So I think again, where the applicant is coming from, sort of trying to make this as sustainable and as green as possible, there was probably a comment or two from the Planning Commission regarding traffic, overall traffic, and how to reduce that. And so I think the applicant is agreeing to provide TDM measures. And again, it's those methods that you can reduce the overall traffic footprint, whether it's employee carpools at the grocery store, providing bike spaces, providing electric charging facilities, or vouchers for people to use public transit.
Right. Okay. No, that's helpful. TDM offering those types of things and requiring a plan are two different things. And when it comes to TDM, there has to be a receiving side on San Rafael, and we have to receive the plan, and there's an ongoing monitoring. So I want us to just be really sensitive for having a large residential and then asking for ongoing reporting. I agree, having transportation oriented that enhanced transit is great. But I thought your slide said a plan. So that raised a little bit of a red flag for me. Councilmember Bush, you wanting to jump in on that.
Oh, thank you for my body language. I'm just reading it's not a TDM like we think of TDM. It's not the big elaborate plans that we have for major developments. It's just it's more transportation demand management measures. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And they're very specific. There's no reporting, there's no monitoring. Okay. It's just basically making information available and making electrical charging sites available, bike parking and things like that. So it's more measures than a big elaborate plan. So
thank you for answering that. I just when I saw the slide, I didn't remember it being a plan. And I see that Leslie was in here too, if in case we hadn't sorted it out, but it looks like we sorted it out. Okay. So with that, I'm sure the council might have additional questions, but I'd love to have the applicant come on and do their portion of the presentation before we go to the public. Hi, welcome.
Can everybody see that okay?
We sure can. If you could introduce yourself and then get started, that'd be great.
All right, my name is Chris Hart. I am the applicant. Ross Gearing will be handling the slide presentation for us. So one, thank you very much for the opportunity to bring this beautiful project, the neighborhood at Los Gamos, to the council this evening for consideration. This is a rare site, 10.24 acres along the Highway 101 corridor, where not a single trip to or from the project will pass by an existing residence, with strong established commercial neighbors in close proximity to transit. We have focused our time on engaging our community to enhance the neighborhood of Los Gamos. Tonight, our 107th meeting presenting this project. Our first meeting was with our closest residential neighbors, the San Rafael Manor. Whether our meetings were with the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce or the Miller Creek School District or the Marin Environmental Housing Collaborative, we've received valuable feedback allowing us to bring the council this project tonight. In January of 2020, the Planning Commission held a workshop where the outcome was that now is the time to reevaluate this site and to focus on multifamily housing. In May of 2020, the Design Review Board workshop encouraged us to cluster the buildings, to make the market more accessible to the entire community, and to make the project as beautiful as possible. Those meetings and the 100+ other meetings resulted in unanimous approval of both the Design Review and Planning Commission hearings for the neighborhood at Los Gamos. Whether it is housing for the missing middle, workforce housing, or simply an increase in the supply of housing, the neighborhood of Los Gamos accomplishes that goal. Our 20 affordable units, which is just above the required 10% requirement, are focused on the low-income bracket and are equally distributed throughout the project by building, by floor, by view corridor, and by unit type. Because this is not a downtown urban core setting, more than 50% of the units are 2 and 3 bedrooms. And at less than 19 units per acre, we are focused on room to breathe and to exploring the natural environment around the site. Now, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our renowned architect, Colin Russell. Colin?
Thank you, Chris. Council members, thank you for your time tonight. As an affordable housing advocate for over 30 years, I'm very pleased to be able to present this project to you. I just wanted to go over some salient points about the site design and the architecture. As this slide shows, the buildings that we're proposing are clustered at the bottom end of our site. There's a nearly 600-foot distance between the top edge of the site and the ridge line, which is shown by the brown line that goes north-south here. All the design elements, as Sean has pointed out, are consistent with the city's hillside guidelines. Next slide. This is just a blow up of the site a bit, and Sean has explained the South Park, which our landscape architect Shilpa Stoa will elaborate on a little bit later. As you can see, there's a loop road that traverses up the hill and creates a very flat area at the village commons, which is the community center and market. As you can see by the roof plans here, the buildings are highly articulated. The units are pushed and pulled, and although they are small in area, they will live big with high ceilings, expansive decks and patios, and solar panels on the roof. Next slide, please. This is just a close-up of one of the roof designs. The gray areas here are the solar panels. We will be maximizing those. These are just shown as essentially concepts. We will be working with a solar consultant to make sure we have adequate solar power for the whole unit, for the whole project. Again, as you can see, the massing is varied and variegated. There are wide overhangs indicated by these trellis ends, and the units are pushed and pulled and create lots of variety. Next, please. This is just a typical elevation view showing the darker colors that we've chosen. As you can see, we have gables, which kind of indicate home to me. We have deep shadow lines with wide overhangs. We have the cantilevered decks that shade the units below. And we've incorporated several sustainable design features, including all the ones that Sean had enumerated. But also, we're looking at a pre-cut, prefabricated building system called BAMCOR, which is made from bamboo. It's made from highly renewable resources and has its own structural value. That's a very interesting product. We will be using double glazed windows, providing bicycle parking, using, of course, energy efficient heating and cooling, and that will be probably totally electric. Light pollution reduction by the use of shielded fixtures. And we are going to be using a water conserving dual plumbing system that uses recycled water. Next. And I'm now going to turn this over to Shilpa Stoa to explain a little bit more about the landscape features of the project. Shilpa?
Thank you, Colin. Good evening, everyone. Reinforcing some of the thoughts that Sean, Chris, and Colin already mentioned, the design of this property revolved around the site's natural beauty, topography, and its magnificent views of the bay. We've carefully sited each building such that the development is tucked into the hillside to reduce the overall scale as viewed from Los Gamos and 101. All the buildings are arranged to create a framework of common area spaces that support and reinforce a lively, socially interactive, and safe neighborhood. Next. This is a view of the entry to the neighborhood. And as you peel off of Los Gamos, you're greeted by a series of terraced open spaces that frame the views to the ridgeline. Next. The project has two major components, the South Recreational Area and the North Residential Core. Now, the section of the loop road between the two tiers of the buildings provide a relatively flat plaza space, what we are calling as the Village Commons, for pedestrian use. It sets up the central space to be used by all individuals without creating a framework of ramps in such a steep site. Permeable pavers at the plaza reduce the overall impervious footprint of this development. At the same time, Silver Cell, which is proposed for stormwater management, provides the uncompacted soil for street trees to flourish. Next. Minimizing impacts to the existing trees to the greatest extent possible has been the key driver of the site plan. To achieve this, the buildings, the loop road, the pedestrian paths were all designed to respect the existing slopes and character of the site, thus minimizing grading and disturbances to the existing vegetation. Next. The fabric of this neighborhood is being held together by a central plaza space between Building 2 and the community center. Each of the tiers of the central space connects to the different levels of the community center to create an outdoor extension to the indoor rooms. The scale and detailing of the central plaza space provides comfortable public living rooms and gathering spaces for multiple age groups as well as uses. Next. This is my favorite slide. It is the view from the community center roof terrace looking east to the San Pedro Mountain Open Space Reserve and the bay. The plaza is composed of various scales of spaces, seating for intimate conversation, step lawn areas to read and gather, a covered area for board games and outdoor fitness, and a custom playground that is designed to teach young kids about the natural world around them. Next. The South Park Trail system and playground area takes advantage of the existing slope and the existing trees. Connected to the North Residential component by a bridge, series of soil cement pathways provide multiple options for passive and active recreation. Next. The playground itself has been designed to take advantage of the natural slopes similar to what you see here. Logs from the on-site trees that are being removed will be used as a natural climbing structure. Next. This is the view from 101 looking towards the neighborhood. With that, I would like to hand over the next slide to Chris Hart.
Thank you, Shilpa. This is the right use for this site. This is a beautiful project that will push sustainable technologies forward. Things like dual plumbing, because luckily there's a giant purple pipe at the property. Implementing an all-electric development, using Silver Cell technology for runoff collection, maximizing solar, implementing an on-demand vehicle program, and eliminating the hurdles for residents to use mass transit. This project is ready to be built now. According to the Marin Economic Forum, the neighborhood of Los Gamos during construction will bring $15 million in business revenue, 401 jobs, and $2.6 million in state and local taxes. Once complete, the neighborhood of Los Gamos residents will add an additional $13 million in annual spending throughout San Rafael, supporting the creation of an additional 70 new full-time jobs and bringing more than $1 million in annual state and local tax revenue. I thank you all for your time and for the staff for all of their time. The entire team is here tonight to answer any questions you may have so that we can earn your unanimous approval this evening for the neighborhood at Los Gamos. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you all for that presentation. So before we go to the public, I will turn it back. Oh, then we can see everyone. Back to my colleagues, and I will call on you to see if you have any questions. I'll start with Vice Mayor Kurtz. Any additional questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris and the team. First, I really would like to thank you for all the ongoing engagement. You have done a number of reach outs to the community all around the area and beyond to share the project. So really appreciate that. Do have a question in terms of the phasing of the project. Is the intent to do all of it at once or phase in pieces of it? So that's one question. And then you quickly mentioned about the electrification. And I know that's going to come up again. You've received a lot of feedback. We received a lot of feedback. If you can go back through that, your statement around that and provide a little bit more, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much. Phasing of the project. No, I would like to build the project all at once, not piecemeal this together. That's what we're going down. We've had 45 conversations with general contractors and builders. We've narrowed it down to about 5, and I'm hoping to make a decision here really quickly on who we're going to go with. Local is always best, and local means really the North Bay is the best. Not many people, not many large firms in San Rafael themselves. When we think about the development in and of itself, the first thing would be the upper retaining wall and then moving down towards Los Gamos Drive, and then doing the grading and getting the building pads ready to go. The construction ideally is going to start from the north and work its way to the south, going vertical north to south as time goes on. But there is not a plan, Vice Mayor Kurtz, to piecemeal this together. It would be one solid development effort at one time, one mobilization. Relative to the electrification, why not go for full electric all the way through? There's an opportunity. I'm not sure where this process is coming relative to it being a rule, but I do know that in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, any maintenance items are going to have to be done on the development are probably going to be in an all electrical framework. So just like with doing the EV and the raceway throughout the entire parking, I want to do the all electric now, because if something were to break in 3, 4, or 5 years, I'm going to have to do that anyway. So we're making a commitment, and I've made the commitment to a couple people in the community that this is an ideal project. It's consistent with our sustainable motives and what we're trying to achieve. So we will be going all electric all the way through. Give it a run, see what we do.
Great, thank you. And one more question, if I can. Chris, you've shared it a number of times that you're very local, about using local. How engaged are you through this whole process?
Well, I'd love to not be engaged that much, but that's not going to happen in my family. No, this is, I'll tell you, our office is at North Gate. I actually look at the site. I'm at the office now and looking out there now. So we are going to be within a mile of the site. We will be on site all the time. We've actually hired a construction superintendent who's already begun work for this. So we're going to be fully engaged. And that way, Vice Mayor Kurtz, we've had a lot of communication leading up to this point. That's been very, very helpful. But there's a whole nother phase that takes place with ongoing communication, whether that's to people on Los Gamos Drive, Los Gamos Road, our nearest residents, or anybody else. I think that as a project of this scope comes to being, you have to continue the communication going forward so people know what to expect, before it happens to them.
Great, thank you. And sorry, I'm going to do one more. Go ahead. Can you please, I know that it wasn't necessarily in the documents, but I did receive a couple of questions just to confirm again around the drive through Los Gamos, the not driving through Los Gamos, from where the pillars are.
Sure. I would hate for that road to connect. I love the fact that at 1401 Los Gamos, the office building there, there's a barrier you cannot pass through. That means that Los Gamos Road gets to remain quiet from cars. The people who come up there, they only have the purposes for them to live there. And my hope is that you're going to see residents from the neighborhood at Los Gamos off of Los Gamos Drive use their bike, walk, access North Gate 1, and do that. So hopefully there will never be a connection between Los Gamos Drive and Los Gamos Road.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That's it for me.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I think the pillars, there is emergency egress though, right, and access?
Yes.
Correct.
I just want to make that clear because I think that had come up before.
It got fixed. Yes, the fire department came out and fixed that.
Director Judici, I see. Yes.
Yes, I actually wanted to add that there was, the approval of that office building also limited that through access. So if there were ever a idea to extend the through way from Los Gamos Drive to Los Gamos Road, that would require an action by the city council. So that's Chris is correct. That's not possible. I also wanted to add, I don't know that you received a response that you were looking for regarding the commercial building, that would be in line with the uses that would be allowed in that building would be in line with the neighborhood commercial district, which is, you know, very neighborhood serving type of uses. So they would be very, it would be very consistent with the residential component of the project.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Bushy, any additional questions?
Just a quick comment to emphasize the need for ongoing communications. As we've seen with the Loch Lomond development, big developments, particularly if you want to do this all at once, have attract attention from people around you with the construction trucks, construction crews, and unforeseen issues come up. So keep those communication channels open. You will need them through your construction schedule. That's it. Thanks.
Good insight. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, thank you, team. Thank you, Chris, for coming to the council. That is, I will just say it's thrilling to hear this commitment for 100%. I'd like to say thank you for making that commitment. You had mentioned that you're now down to 5 contractors / builders locally sourced. That's amazing that you've already narrowed it down that far. What are some of the criteria you consider when you make that selection for your local contractor?
Great question. One, the ability to do multifamily is a big deal. The largest deal, though, has been doing developments on slope. You know, we've got a very good geology report. We've got bedrock right there. I would like to tie the foundations into the bedrock. So we need a contractor who can be up to speed on all the new wall technologies that are out there. A lot of different new wall technologies out there, and who have recently done this. So that's helped weed out quite a few people. Plus, it's a big project, Councilmember Hill. Some people have self-selected to leave the mix, and I think that's been helpful because we're left with I think what's the best of the best.
Great, thank you for that. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Urens-Gulati.
Yeah, thank you. Again, thank you so much for the presentation. It looks like the perfect project, you know, where we are really trying to add housing that is next to public transportation in the corridor. So, and I applaud the use of, you know, electric. I think hopefully will be a model for new developments. Is definitely where we are going. My question is, I have 2. One is around lighting. I see that because you are building this into the rock, you know, I always love light in where I live. So if you can answer a little bit about like, is it going to come just from the big windows that you have in the front? And the other one is like, what happens when you have visitors? You have parking inside the buildings, but when you have visitors, will they have to park outside, or how are you handling parking in that situation?
Sure, great question. Relative to light, there's 2 things. I think Colin can speak to this a little bit. I think Shilpa can speak to it as well. We're going to have a lighting plan. So obviously it's a very, very big plan. I personally always refer back to night light and light disturbing taking place out there. So I like to follow Sedona, Arizona, actually, as an example, and how they handle that part of it. But no, it has to be well lit, so as you're walking down the street, you feel safe, you know what's going on around you, but it also can't be disturbing to everybody else who may see that going forward. Obviously, big windows is to let in the natural light. And I think during the daytime, my wife will speak to this. Nothing is bigger pet peeve to me than the lights being on during the day when it's sunny outside. Of course, it's the cost of it as well. But yes, big windows should be helping with that. Colin or Shilpa, is there anything else that you all would add to the lighting plan that's forthcoming?
Yeah, so all the exterior light fixtures are all dark sky compliant. And what we are trying to do is have the best level of lighting for nighttime use without it being overdone by integrating the site lighting with building lighting. But when I say building lighting, it's more the building mounted lighting. And we have actually a consultant who is working with us to integrate that in a manner that's pleasant, not only for the people who are in the community, but looking at it from outside, whether it be 101 or from Las Gamos.
I just would add that I think the councilwoman was referring to maybe natural light coming into the buildings, and these are quite shallow units and very heavily windowed. In other words, there will be a lot of natural light that will be coming in directly from outside and lighting the entire interior space of every unit.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, it was more like the natural lighting, but it's always great to hear as well about the night lighting and the neighborhoods and what you see from the freeway. So thank you. Yeah, and if you could answer maybe about the parking, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, great. I think we mentioned a little bit about the EV piece. I want to get this out too. We're required to put in so much electrical charging stations. Those will meet those requirements. I'm going to be doing the full raceway for all of the parking, because I don't know in 2, 3, 5 years what the demand will be for EV charging stations. I know the most expensive and most disruptive thing for me to do would be to tear up the parking lot and put in those EV raceways and then have the availability. We want to meet the demand that the consumer is going to bring to the table, right? What the residents want. So we have a very good traffic plan. The visitor parking is there. There are some surface parking at the neighborhood at Los Gamos. Some up on the upper side, some on those little streets there. So I think we are adequately parked, and then the visitors will be in pretty good shape on that. Riley, anything that you'd like to add to the parking discussion, or Colin?
Sure, I can add a few quick things. First of all, good evening. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Riley Hurd. I'm a San Rafael resident, and I'm also part of the project team. A few things. First of all, Councilmember Bushy very astutely recognized that this is not a TDMP that you might see at an office complex or a shopping center. We've got an on-site vehicle rideshare program. We've got electric bikes, but probably the biggest thing and the most effective tool to prevent both traffic and parking issues is something called unbundled parking, which Chris has agreed to implement. And this is where the parking is leased separately than the units. So you don't necessarily get the parking with the unit. And what it does is it strongly encourages residents to seek alternate means. And then if they can't and they need a parking space, and there are more spaces than units, of course, then they can get one of those. We hired an outside traffic consultant, and this was their #1 recommendation. First, they said, here's the amount of parking your project needs under the new standards and what we think the demand will be. You see, parking is a little bit unique in that the owner of the property has a very vested interest in providing enough parking to make the place marketable. But if you overpark it, it encourages vehicle travel. So that was the solution, the unbundled parking. And, I'm doing a 7-story building in Berkeley with 0 parking spaces right now. Now, it's a little bit of a different place, but they're not even allowed over there because they're right next to BART and so on and so forth. Marin's not quite there, but I think this one with these measures is a really good start. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure there might be additional questions. I don't have any. That's a great thing about having my colleagues go first. I had all these written down. I'm like, check, check, check. So thank you. And if you can, the applicant can stay on the screen, I will also welcome the City Clerk to help us facilitate public comment on this item. And what we'll do, just so in case for the applicant, so we'll write down, we won't answer the questions right when they're given. We will receive all the public comment. I'll close the public comment, and then we'll come back and answer the questions, just to clarify. Sorry. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks. To comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. And if commenting by phone, please press *9. Once you've heard the notification that the host is inviting you to speak, you'll need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to provide public comments, and they will be muted once time has elapsed. We're ready for you.
Okay, if you can hear me, my name is Michael McLennan. I live in Terra Linda. And the project looks good. There were quite a few comments talking about recycled water. The Kaiser facility right down the road, the new remodeled building, uses recycled water for toilet flushing. Is that going to be included in this recycled water use, or is it just going to be limited to landscaping? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Mike. What we'll do is note your question, and then we will answer it when we get everyone's question. So thank you.
Can I ask one more small question?
You sure can. Yeah, go for it.
For future is I was down at City Hall today and asked about the large hotel downtown, whether that facility was required to install dual plumbing to anticipate future access to recycled water for toilet flushing. It's a huge complex. Millions of gallons of water would be saved. That's a note for someone else another time, but I appreciate your listening.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, we'll definitely have the first question, the second question. Hopefully you got your answer when you were at City Hall. We're gonna keep to this project. So Madam City Clerk, keep rolling.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and council members. My name is David Mahler. I'm representing the 51 members of the Marin-Sonoma Building Electrification Squad, which includes several San Rafael residents. We request that the council's approval of the proposed neighborhood at Los Gamos project be conditioned to require that the development be all electric. This is because emissions from using natural gas in buildings, particularly for space and water heating, accounts for about 1/4 of Marin's greenhouse gas emissions. All electric heat pump alternatives to fuel gas, space, and water heaters exist now and are readily available at reasonable cost. The same holds true for other gas burning appliances. San Rafael's Climate Change Action Plan 2030 and its General Plan 2040 both point to all electric appliances for new residential buildings. And several other entities are on track to require that new residential buildings be all electric, including the California Energy Commission and Marin County. But even with all electric requirements on the horizon, it's crucial that the council add this condition as part of its approval now, because all electric requirements at the building permit stage are not yet in place. There's no reason not to condition the approval of this project on being all electric. It's less costly to construct, no more costly to operate, and will avoid literally thousands of tons of greenhouse gas emissions the project would otherwise discharge into our atmosphere over the next 20 or 30 years from gas burning appliances. I have spoken with Chris Hart about this. He's been incredibly responsive. And as you have heard, he's committed for the project to be all electric. This is an opportunity for a real win-win-win. A win for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, a win for lower cost housing, and a win for public health and safety. I hope you'll take this action, and I want to thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Mayor Kate, members of the City Council. This is Warren Wells, Policy and Planning Director for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I'm actually going to a later item, but I just want to make a couple comments. I really love a lot about things about this development. The kind of the cul-de-sac for cars that allows people to walk and bike through between Los Gamos Drive and Road. The mention of the unbundled parking, like it was said earlier, that's a really great tool for people such as myself who don't own a car. We get to have a lower rent and get around by bike. And people who do have a car, they still can rent a parking space. Also, it was mentioned, I hadn't seen this earlier, but there was both rideshare vehicles on the development site and electric bikes, which I hadn't heard about before, but it sounds great. A couple things about the parking. I just wanted to ask, I didn't have a chance to review the whole document beforehand. Is the bike parking on site, is that just at the very minimum of what's required per city code, which I believe is one bike, I believe it's 5%, so one bike per 19 car parking spaces, and the second question was, are any of those bike parking spaces indoors and secured? So the last 3 years, we've seen an explosion in electric bicycles. I think since 2018, e-bikes have outsold electric cars every year. But one of the big barriers to uptake is people don't have a place to put them securely. So something that we're looking for is for people to provide spaces in multifamily housing so that our buildings are not only EV ready, but e-bike ready. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all your time tonight.
Thank you, Warren.
Good evening, council members. My name is Linda Jackson. I'm Vice President of Sustainable San Rafael. And Sustainable San Rafael this evening really wishes to express its appreciation for the sustainability features throughout the project. We especially appreciate the on-site affordable units and the fact that many of the market rate units are sized to provide workforce housing. In addition, we're glad to see the developer's intention to provide rooftop solar for on-site electricity that's free of fossil fuels, EV charging facilities for 10% of the parking with EV-ready conduits throughout, heat pump electric space heating and water heating equipment with the intention that the buildings will be 100% electric, and easily accessible provisions for recycling organics and other recyclables. Sustainable San Rafael would like to encourage the following: further adjustments of play areas and other structures to minimize the loss of mature native trees, use of defensible space following the sound practices for vegetation management recently developed for the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. And third, usable walking paths to transit, shopping, workplaces, and open space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda, for your comments.
Hi, good evening. My name is Linda Howman, and I'm a 28-year resident of Marinwood. I could walk to this site. I also belong to the YMCA, and I think it's terrific. Thank you, Mr. Hart and your team. I'm also on the Marin Organizing Committee, and I work with the Affordable Housing team. So I really appreciate that there will be 20 affordable units sprinkled throughout the site. I also agree with the other folks that have commented about the sustainability of this project, and I like the unbundled parking. So to accommodate e-bikes, also EV spaces are very important as we have more and more electric vehicles. And we know we need workforce housing. So thank you so much for providing that. And also the idea of having a grocery store on this premises will reduce traffic. I remember when this light went in, I go by it every day, the Los Gamos and Lucas Valley Road. And I said, oh my gosh, there's going to be more traffic. But if there's, a place that people can shop right there, that does it. So thank you so much. I hope this goes through.
Thank you, Linda.
Hi, my name is Jeff Bialik, and I'm a 26-year resident of San Rafael Park. I'm also on the steering committee of the Housing Crisis Action Marin, as well as the Affordable Housing team of the Marin Organizing Committee. I am very excited about this project, and I urge the council to vote affirmatively and move this project forward to construction. I think it's very smartly designed. It's well sited on the site, and absolutely ecstatic about the addition of the affordable housing. As a neighbor up the hill from this project, I could see the project if I was a crow, as the crow flies, but because I'm not a crow, I won't be able to see it. But I'll know it's there, and it's on my dog walking path, and so I'll be going by quite frequently. In fact, very pleased with the addition of the park and the market. And I was just thinking that this would mean that San Rafael Park will actually now have a park, which I believe is the first time we've had a park, even though I know we've wanted one for a very long time. So I want to thank you, and again, urge you to move this project forward, and let's get this thing going. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Cece Osborne, and I am a junior at Terralinda High in the Marin School of Environmental Leadership. First of all, I just want to say that I really appreciate all of the sustainable aspects of this project. And one more thing that I think is really important to include is carbon sequestering concrete, which is necessary in order to offset the carbon emissions from the construction process for this project. And because concrete isn't replaced very often, this is a great opportunity to provide concrete that will sequester more carbon in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cece.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the space. My name is Andrew Ward. I'm the Executive Director of the Marin YMCA. I believe that makes us the closest neighborhood or neighbors to this project on Los Gamos. And here to say once again that we are supportive of this project. We believe in the genuine collaboration that Chris Hart and the team represents here. We believe this does create a real community feel on Los Gamos with Kaiser, the YMCA, and hopefully eventually the neighborhood at Los Gamos. This might just be the healthiest place to live in Marin County. And the commitment to work with us as a local nonprofit organization to serve the residents well, whether that be outdoor programming that we could offer, opportunities across the street and be part of the YMCA, childcare. There's so many ways that we can work together. There is not many food options in walking distance, so the employees of Kaiser and the Y will have upgraded options to support local food and purchase there. I'll look forward to charging my electric vehicle and my electric bike across the street at this project. And the Y has been significantly, like many of our nonprofits, significantly hindered by various shutdowns. This project and its residents joining the Y, engaging in local programs across the street will support our economic recovery. And we appreciate the ongoing collaboration and communication, and we'll expect that communication to continue throughout the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Good evening. My name is Bob Pendoli. I'm speaking for the Marin Environmental Housing Collaborative, MEC. We strongly support the neighborhood at Los Gamos. This project will provide 192 badly needed rental homes, including 20 affordable units. These apartments will support the local workforce, they'll help to shorten commute trips, and they'll help to meet San Rafael's RHNA obligations. The neighborhood at Los Gamos demonstrates an increased height and density in the right location, and coupled with good design, promotes housing equity and environmental sustainability. You know that the housing need in San Rafael is urgent. The majority of renters have no choice but to pay more than they can afford for housing. They struggle to meet their other basic needs, food, childcare, and health services. The Los Gamos project addresses the housing crisis directly and would satisfy 6% of San Rafael's RHNA goals. The current height and density limits would restrict development on this site to no more than 5 single-family homes. This low density would likely result in disturbance to the entire site. The proposed general plan amendment and the rezoning will avoid this waste by boosting housing opportunity while minimizing site disturbance. This design concentrates higher density at the lower and least sensitive portions of the site. It's the right way to build on this property. Finally, this design will create a sense of community for the surrounding area as well as the project site. This attractive residential design and the included park and open spaces, the market, and the community centers will create a neighborhood. We strongly urge that you approve the neighborhood at Los Gamos. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for your letter. I should have said that we have received also additional emails and correspondence, and the council has read those as well.
Hello, this is Brian Dempsey here. I live about a quarter mile away. And I want to say that, I guess to Chris Hart and team, that I do appreciate the sense that you guys are residents. Chris, that you're a resident. And I know several of you others are as well, Riley and Ross of the area, because you can come through as far as the design. I felt like you guys have paid maybe special attention to the design and the location on the property. A couple of questions and thoughts. As far as fire prevention goes, I was wondering if you can consider building extra infrastructure kind of above and beyond the minimum firefighting measures, such as tapping into that large purple pipe to feed fire mitigation sprinklers. which can help keep down small fire vegetations in that area, potentially on-site fire hoses to help first responders. Also, I believe I've been at a meeting before where a city council member or maybe a design review board member asked if the city would grant the applicant the ability to build a second roadway. I can only imagine a fire truck trying to get up that driveway while concerned residents are trying to evacuate. It does appear that, in knowing the landscape of that area, that just north or the northeast of building 1, you could potentially drop down a fairly short road to be used during fire emergencies. I would ask if the applicant would consider any language that would prevent residents from subleasing, aka Airbnb, to other customers, just to prevent any kind of subleasing, profit generating opportunity from the direct applicants or the direct residents. And I guess lastly, alternative energy backup plans for when PG&E does shut down electricity. I'm all for usage of electricity for the appliance.
Thank you, Brian. We did get your comments, and when we get to the answering part, I will have Chief White help to answer that, because I think that is partly what we provide as fire department. But stay tuned. We'll wait until we get through the rest of the public comment.
Thank you, council members and Vice Mayor Kurtz and Mayor Kate. I'm Mike Pelfini. I am a lifelong San Rafael resident, and I chair the Economic Vitality Committee of the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce, which represents nearly 625 Marin County employers with over 26,000 employees across 25 industry sectors, I want to express our support for this mixed-use project. The San Rafael Chamber has made the production of new housing units a top priority focus, supports new housing production that's attainable by our local workforce. The Los Gamos project would create, as we've heard, 192 apartments, including 20 low-income units that would increase our housing supply and contribute towards our critical need for new housing units. Marin employers repeatedly report acute and persistent challenges in recruiting and retaining enough employees to grow their businesses. We recognize that the need for more workforce housing is crucial to securing our economic future. We have a limited number of large sites that can accommodate residential projects that have the potential to make a dent in our housing situation. This development is an ideal use of a nearly 11-acre site along the freeway for high density to mid-level residential units. And the project's close proximity to jobs, transit, and nearby amenities reflects key elements of really good planning principles and thoughtful growth. As San Rafael continues to recover from the ongoing pandemic, this project would also generate jobs and significant revenue during its construction phase, as well as long-term revenue for its future residents. The positive impacts would ripple through our local economy in the form of new sales tax revenue, sales to local businesses, and sizable projects.
Thank you, Mike. And we do have the 2 minutes, so if you want to talk even faster for folks, do that. But I appreciate you taking the time to call in, so thank you.
Good evening, City Council and staff members. First, I'd like to say thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Steve Harris, and I'm a field rep with the Carpenters Local 35, representing over 600 carpenters in this region. I'm calling in with concerns that should be taken into consideration with all developments, including the one in front of us tonight. Recent data released by UC Berkeley shows all working families in California, 36% of them are on some type of supportive program. In construction, 48% of the workers are on some type of supportive program. All workers on some types are, why are standards less for construction workers when we are the ones that build our communities, help create the homes you live in, and build the business that allow us to have a building to work in or hold our public meetings? Again, that is 48% of construction workers and their families that depend on some type of program that's costing taxpayers money. The cost of a project isn't calculated into the development because it's the community that is affected by it. My concerns are, will there be requirements that the contractor has training, a livable wage, or even health care for the workers building these projects? Again, thanks for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hi, my name is Becky Rosales. I'm the superintendent for the Miller Creek School District. And I have had the opportunity to hear a little bit about this project. And I think that it's a really exciting opportunity for the community and hopefully potential housing for our staff. So congratulations on a well-designed project. I'm hoping that Mr. Hart would be able to address the potential impact to the school district, the number of students that each unit might generate, and then look forward to further conversations about that possible impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Marcy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I do appreciate that this project is aesthetically pleasing to the eye, as I live right across from what would be the proposed kiddie park area of this project. So some of my concerns involve parking, transit, or traffic, and just the scope, the size of this all. I mean, I've lived here for 25 years and it's been quiet. We're homeowners, even though they are apartments, co-op versus condo. So I do like the idea that the light pollution has been addressed with the what they said were shielded fixtures. And hopefully the street parking would also keep that in mind, or street lights. With regard to parking too, I would like to propose to the city in a question to address adding limited parking on Los Gamos Road, especially a section leading up to Oleander, and to limit, as people would, visitors or workers or other people, they park there to go to the Y. So I know they would park here to go to the building. The office also park here to go to the office building, which provides plenty of parking because it's closer on our side to get to the services. The groceries, that's because of the service. The grocery store idea was great, but with it mitigating traffic needs of people going elsewhere to the store. However, if the change is allowed.
Thank you, Marcy, and I appreciate you calling in to give the comments. I know you called in earlier and we did get your questions, which we'll answer at the end of the public comment. So thank you.
Yeah, this is John Reynolds. I'm a member of First United Methodist Church, San Rafael, and also I'm resident of the Canal area. I've always had difficulty finding a place to live in Marin County because of the high rents, the high expense of housing. So I've been very much involved in supporting affordable housing for the workforce, of course, teachers, firefighters, policemen, teachers, child care workers, high-end food service workers, office workers, gardeners, whatever they are. I appreciate this proposal supporting people in the workforce. We need to have more supported and living in Marin where they work and getting people off the roads from other counties. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate this project. It's very strong. It provides park and a grocery store and open space and trees. It would be a beautiful place and high density housing, which would help us to support more people living and working in Marin, and whatever we can do. I'm a member of MOC as well, and I appreciate the people from MOC who spoke and the Marin Environmental Housing Coalition that spoke too. And thank you very much for doing this project, and let's get on with it. Amen.
Thank you, John.
I see no other hands raised, so I'll just say one more time for anyone who's joined in that if you're calling in, you'll need to press *9, and if you're using Zoom, you'll need to use the raise hand feature. I do see another speaker.
Okay.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sunny Lee. I just want to comment on the, I don't know, it was Mr. Hurt mentioning about limited electric vehicle charging stations to be given like 10%, because the project team might not know the future of the demand of the customers. As far as all the information we have receiving from the state law is that we will stop selling combustible vehicles by 2035. So it'll be, there's a very high rate of electric vehicle users already in Marin County, I believe. And personally, owning an 11-year-old electric vehicle, I have to find the charging stations everywhere I go because it has a very low charging capacity. So I'm always looking for now. There's so many electric vehicles out there. The charging stations are often occupied by another vehicle drivers. So having not only, personally, I think just having ready for the outlet for each store, and later when the demand goes up, and we could put the charging port to install later. And that might be a good approach to it. That was one of my suggestions for the future. We have to look forward for more than just 10 years, 20 or 30 years. It might be soon enough that we will all hopefully drive electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny.
I see no other hands raised. Let me give everyone a couple seconds.
Okay.
I see no further public comment.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back. And I wrote down a list of questions, and I ran out of room at the bottom of my paper, so they're not going to be in order of what you heard them. But let me just quickly say them, and if I missed any, you will fill in. And as is sometimes the case, I know you'll be answering a question that you might have already answered earlier on, but that's okay. I think sometimes it's good to say it more than once because this is what's rising to the top. So information and more conversation around recycled water usage. Quite a bit of conversations or questions around it being all electric. There was a request to have it as part of the approval. Parking on Los Gamos Road, what's the overflow or what's the impact on surrounding streets in terms of parking? Worker benefits for the project. Bike parking is what? I wrote is what. I think it's both indoor and outdoor e-bike, so all things bike parking, EV charging stations, if you could answer that again. School impact. There's a comment around carbon sequestration concrete. The idea of subleasing or Airbnb. The fire suppression hoses, additional water egress, ingress. We will have Chief White help answer that because the city is a partner in that. And then finally, the backup power plan. So I think I got most of them, my tiny piece of paper. So we'll start with that. So Chris, why don't you start ticking them off and
Sure. Sure, definitely. I'll call on Riley and Colin and she'll help me out. I had a drink of water ahead of time just so I can do all of this. I think first I'll start with the dual plumbing piece. We want to dual plumb this building. That purple pipe is right there. It terminates on Los Gamos Drive. We're going to utilize it. We're going to utilize it not just for the landscaping aspects, but also for the toilets. it goes to saying that nothing's potable in the toilet anyway. So if it falls in the toilet, it's dead to me. So we might as well use non-potable water for all of that. I'm sorry, I just want to get that on the record. The all electric, we want to do this. And as I mentioned to David, this is a great opportunity to do this. So I'm committing to doing that with him. Relative to the bikes, during the 2040 general plan, I had an opportunity dressed like this, usually with a tie on, to sit next to Jim Garrity, who explained everything about e-bikes to me. So it's going to be an e-bike Garrity thing at the neighborhood at Los Gamos. Somehow I'm going to have to make tie-dye charging stations, but we're going to do that because he was correct. So we're going to do it. Bike parking has to be secure. I'm a victim of as a young child of the bike being stolen. I'm still looking for it in San Rafael. It must be out there. I had a little tag from the fire department, but they're going to be in the garages for the most part for the residences, so that they would park their bikes and secure them in the garages underneath the buildings, and then bike parking throughout the rest of the development, specifically around really the garage for the market, and then up above on the community center as well as the e-bike charging there as well. I'm going to reach out to CC Osborne. I think it's amazing that a high school student is commenting on this and is talking about carbon sequestering concrete. We can speak about that, Colin and Shilpa. I know we want to use permeable pavement as much as humanly possible, but why don't you guys chime in on the concrete piece? And I'm going to reach out or ask CC to reach out to me as well through the website, neighborhood@losgamos.com. And why don't you work with us, CC, as an intern on this? Colin, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that product. I've not used it, and I would like to learn more about it. That's about all I can say at this point, but it sounds very intriguing.
And CC mentioned she's part of the MSA, which is the Marin School of Environmental Leadership, which is embedded at Terra Linda. So yeah, the future is there in that school.
I wanted to also say about bike parking,
yes.
We have a very large amount of indoor storage, covered lockable storage on the second floor at the back side of every building that is available for all the tenants. So it will not be a problem to store those bikes.
Correct. Brian Dempsey wanted to talk about subleasing. I am not a fan of subleasing the apartment out via Airbnb. We have a policy internally that we can kind of dust that off and do that, but that is not something that we are in favor of at all, frankly. So we would be looking, regardless of the city council, we would be looking to not have that be part of the development. I think it's solar battery backup. Yes, PG&E will shut off the electricity. I'll take that bet no matter what. The electricity power will be shut off at some point in time. We're working with a firm called Ivy to come up with the entire maximization of solar, as well as now the all electric aspect of it. So battery backup is going to have to be a piece of that equation. With fire suppression, it's one of the reasons why we're choosing BAMCore as a product. It has an extremely low burn rate. We have some fire. We have a captain. Sandra is a fire captain in the family. So fire is a big deal to us, and we'll be tapping into him as well. But any recommendations we can get from the city, and I would love to take some Rainbird 1100 sprinkler systems and shoot that water, 1,000 feet up the hill, if you guys would let me do it, just to show that we can do it. But whatever we can do to do that, and I think fire is going to be, it's just out here forever now, right? And we know that. The relative to the union piece and living wage, that has spread down a little bit. Some of our contractors who we are still talking with are union or have portions of their business that are union. We're not making a difference between them. We just want the best, and for the building, it's going to be a long-term hold for us. The quality of construction is paramount, and that's what we would say to there. Riley, thoughts on the Miller Creek impact? I mean, I'm hoping we have families. That's why we're going for so many 2 and 3 bedroom units.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds like you left the hard ones for me.
I'm just giving you one.
So first of all, in regards to fees and exactions, this project at the time of building permit will pay a staggering amount of fees, all of which are spelled out in the city's ordinances. But in regards to schools, at approximately 306,000 square feet, the school fee for this project would be between $1.1 and $1.2 million. That's just a one-time payout. And that's a huge infusion of cash for this district. There's also another kind of anomaly going on. We're seeing school district closures, and that's because of lack of demand. And we have districts that are having to consolidate. And a lot of it has to do with the lack of creation of new housing. So here you get students, which also equal money for the district based on their attendance, and you get the impact fee. So I think from a school perspective, it's a big positive. A couple other ones on the list. Sunny Lee, completely agree with her comments about EV preparation. So we got a little technical there when we said raceway. I think of that as a car racing track. No, all of the parking garages will have a pipe that surrounds the entire parking garage. In it is pre-wiring for electric vehicle charging. And what it does is it makes every space convertible almost on demand when the need arises. So you can track kind of the rollout of electric cars through your parking garage. So that's really helpful. On short-term rentals, I'd also note the city has a very strict ordinance about that. So between those registration requirements and Chris not liking them, I have a feeling there's not going to be a lot of Airbnbs. Someone mentioned parking on Los Gamos. This one's interesting because of the topography of the site. If you've ever seen how human beings walk through planters and the shortest route possible, you know, the thought of spillover parking here is less likely. Also, a bit of an aside, but I mean, I have the pleasure of doing this many times per week, fortunately or unfortunately. I've never seen a project of this scope with this level of support and lack of opposition. And yes, it's because it has a beautiful design and it's super green, but let's also be honest, it doesn't really have neighbors. It's an office building in the YMCA. Many things are being done to help with the office building. The Y is fully supportive, and then you just drive out to the highway. So I think that's, you know, really helping here as well, and it is a strong benefit. Let's see, what else was on the list? I know we worked very closely with the fire department, so we'll wait to hear from them, and everything else was covered. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think everything was covered. I think on the fire suppression, and maybe we can get Chief White. This is a hard thing about being virtual. There are many hard things about being virtual. But what I was really curious was about the ingress egress. If, God forbid, there was a fire event. Kind of like, Chief White, are you in the room? Maybe Director Giudice, has there been conversation about that?
Absolutely, there has. From the beginning, you know, the conversations involve the other departments, including fire and engineering, and you know, that the topic of having an adequate access road and the way that the roadway has been proposed with a kind of a circle around the development, roadways that are wide enough to be able to provide a vehicle with the ladder to be you know, parked at the roadway and still provide access through the rest of the street has been provided in this situation. So yeah, there has been quite a bit of conversations with the other departments.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is turn it over to my colleagues, and I'll just call on them individually in case they have additional questions. And I would take both the questions and the comments at the same time. And I will start with Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Well, thank you. I sort of echo Riley's comments. It's a bit of a unicorn. If this project is meeting so many needs that we've talked about for a long time, and you better fulfill. And I mean, as you know, I live in this area. I am very close to this, one of the closer neighbors to this development. I walk by all the time on my dog walks. So I'll be able to watch, and I know the neighbors in the community will also be reaching out. But you are providing more than affordable units, and thank you for actually providing a project with affordable units and not in lieu fees. Although the in lieu fees are helpful at times, affordable units is what we need. And it's a huge benefit for this project. And then coming through with electrification, if we're able to do that, fantastic. It's something that I think the City of San Rafael really needs to look at as a overall policy, but we haven't done that yet. And I know there are many neighboring communities, and I believe there's 54 cities and counties across California right now that have had policies around this. So I appreciate you taking the lead in this work, because it is something that I think is going to be very important for all of us to consider. We need it. I mean, and as you said, this is providing needed housing. And it's interesting because I've heard families that say, this is what we need. I've heard aging members who are in large homes who are like, wow, this would be perfect. We've heard workforce. So, I mean, I think you're going to have a number of people who are very interested, and it might be a lovely place to have a really mixed use generational community. And so I think that's also another advantage to this type of work. So I think I'm ready to support this going forward. Please be more proactive and frequent in communication. This is going to be the biggest piece for this project, I think, going forward. And I am happy to make a motion to approve. I know we have a number of resolutions, other pieces to go through this, but when we're ready.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bushy.
I agree. As far as controversy per unit goes, the ratio here is the lowest I've seen in a long time. I really can't think of a project of this size that has had so little controversy. I think location plays into it. I think that is a part of it, but I also want to commend you for your outreach to the neighbors and working with the community to come up with a project that you can bring forward. And I think the gold stars that I look for are the unanimous approvals from the Design Review Board and from the Planning Commission. Those two entities can be tough hurdles for projects to get through. It's not true. There is, in fact, no rack that they stretch people on. But you guys sailed through and got unanimous support from both of those entities, both of which I respect a great deal and would be hard pressed to do anything other than follow their lead. Fortunately here, that's very easy to do. So I will be joining Vice Mayor Kurtz when the time is right to support this matters, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. And I echo the Vice Mayor's comments as well as Councilmember Bushy's comments. I will be supporting this. In all of the dimensions that you've had to navigate, it is impressive to me that working backwards from a vision to address each one of these is phenomenal. And I imagine that this is penciling out for you, so congratulations on that as well. But yes, I will be supporting the 4 motions that we'll have to make here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Llorens Gulati.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this project to San Rafael. As you know, I mentioned before, and I think everybody else, including our community, has said this is like a great fit for the space. And of course, you know, it's like everything you're doing right now for the environment is great. And so I cannot wait to have like the ribbon cutting ceremony and just see who our new neighbors are going to be. So congratulations. And I'm also ready to approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will just echo the comments of my colleagues. Chris, I must have been back. It was definitely pre-COVID. So 2017 that you had broached this. I think Paul Jensen was the community development director at the time. We said, you know what, you need to get out there and talk to the community and see if this is something that would fit and reflect our values. And you know what, you did. I think you said you engaged 100 meetings. I can't remember the number that you said, some ginormous number. And, you know, to Riley's point, I think that's why that outreach is why there hasn't been any concerted opposition, is that you listened. So yes, you listened recently, but you've been listening for many, many years about what our community wanted. Your involvement in General Plan 2040, and I love the homage to Jim Garrity. He's a special guy, and so really appreciate that. And it shows that you were understanding the context for which this project would be entering into our community, because you have been a part of those general plan conversations. I also want to thank the staff, Ali, Sean, and Leslie. This is a big project, and part of having something before us that went to the DRB, the Planning Commission, and now us cleanly is because staff was there to answer questions and guide the process. And then the community. It is fantastic when we have the letters and we have people calling in. Yes, we absolutely depend on the DRB and the Planning Commission and the expertise. And it's extra icing on the cake when the community takes the time to call in and say, yeah, we want this. The sustainability features, that's a beacon. We want San Rafael to be a leader. We want to say, hey, look at this. Density can be had in a way that makes sense and has a lighter, we already know, multi-family units have less of a carbon imprint than single-family homes. So this speaks to that. In terms of the outreach, and I would suggest you take a book out of the Southern Heights Bridge outreach, and Councilmember Hill will nod his head on this, and they had a fantastic person who gave periodic, was it weekly or bi-weekly updates and really let the neighbors know what was going on. So whatever that looks like, and it was a point person that people could go to when issues came up. So again, hats off to you to have this moment in front of us, and it'll be a moment that we'll get to hold on to, because I think there are 4 separate actions that need to be read in their entirety. And I know Vice Mayor Kurtz, you had suggested that you would make the motion, so have at it.
Thank you. And again, got to go through the business part of it, but thank you again for all the work that you're doing. So I will start with the first one. I'd like to make a motion, resolution adopting an initial study mitigated negative declaration and approving a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, IS 20-004.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Next resolution, please.
I'd like to make a motion, resolution approving a general plan amendment, GPA 20-001, from Hillside Resource Residential to Neighborhood Commercial Mixed Use.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Next item.
Moving on. I'd like to make a motion, pass to print, an ordinance approving a zone change, ZC 20-002, from Planned District Hillside Development Overlay District, PD-H, and Residential Hillside Development Overlay District, R2A-H, to Planned Development District, PD.
There's second.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Final one.
Final one. Like to make a motion, resolution approving environmental and design review, ED-20-058, and a vesting tentative parcel map, TS-20-002.
And I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Skalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. We very much look forward to that ribbon cutting and really appreciate the applicant and the way you showed up for our community. So thank you so much. And we'll move on to our next agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill Guerin with Public Works.
Wait, before you jump in, sorry, Director Guerin, before we get to this item, I think Councilmember Hill wanted to make a statement.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kate. So as previously conveyed on May 3rd and June 7th of 2021, I've analyzed as to whether I have a conflict of interest arising from my residence proximity to the project and have concluded that there is and continues to be a conflict that disqualifies me from participating in this agenda item. I have discussed this with the city attorney and the city attorney agrees. So I plan to virtually leave the dais now and will return when this agenda item has concluded. Does the city attorney have any comments on the matter before I depart?
No comments other than I guess with your video and video off and sound muted, you will be absent, but you'll also be able to observe. So then, Councilmember Hill, you will know when the item is concluded, and then you'll know when to return.
Understood. I will do that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, City Attorney. Thank you, Councilmember Hill. Okay, Director Guerin, now I will turn it over to you for the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project, and welcome April Miller as well.
Thank you. And Rafat Ray is here as well for any questions that come up regarding traffic. Bill Guerin with the Department of Public Works. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for having us tonight. We are at the point of construction award for the now $20 million 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project. It's an exciting project with a lot of moving parts. And April Miller is going to go through a presentation regarding the project, bring you all up to date on what we're trying to award. There are 4 pieces of this project also that need approval, so we'll indulge you in that as well. But we'll start with April's presentation and then be happy to entertain any questions that the council or community has regarding this project.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay. Great.
Can you see the presentation or the presentation mode?
We can see the presentation, and then we see the next slide.
Oh.
There's no notes.
All right, let me try one more time.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. That's beautiful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members for having us here tonight. So we're here to talk about the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project again. So I just want to clarify something about this project. So tonight we're solely talking about the rehabilitation project. We're not, in past city council meetings, we've actually talked about the 3rd Street corridor, which has 2 projects. There's the rehabilitation project, and then there's the safety project, which is federally funded. So tonight, we're not going to be talking about the Lindaro intersection at 3rd, where we have intersection improvements there. There's some signal work at Lincoln, and then there's the Grand Avenue. So those are all part of the safety project, which you'll hopefully hear about at council in the next couple months. So the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project covers the entire corridor. And the reason it covers the entire corridor is because there's certain operations that we've continued throughout the entire project. And that includes the Marin Municipal Water District water line replacement and the Sanitation District line replacement. So we kept all of those within the same contract, which is under the rehabilitation project. In addition, the rehabilitation project is going to take longer to construct than the safety project. So the rehabilitation project is actually going to pave and stripe the entire corridor at the very end. So it'll be one final beautiful looking road when we get to the end there. So I just wanted to clarify that since before we always talk about them together. So tonight's objectives, which Director Guerin mentioned, is we have 4 things that we were asking of City Council. So we would like to award the construction contract to Gelati Brothers. We also would like to approve and authorize an amendment to CSW's scope, who's been our project designer, and that's to help us with construction support. We also are recommending that you approve and authorize the execution of a reimbursement agreement between the city and the sanitation district, and also a reimbursement agreement between the city and Marin Municipal Water District. So going back in history a little bit, so TAM identified 3rd Street as a priority project a long time ago. And so back in 2017, the city started the planning process and started a feasibility study. So during that process, there were a couple community meetings back when we could have them in person. And we also created a community and technical working group where we met with specific people from the community to talk about the project and make sure that we could create a set of goals for the 3rd Street corridor. So that feasibility study was presented to council back in June of 2019. After that point, another consultant was hired to do the design phase. And then during the design phase, we met with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee a couple times. We also had 2 virtual community meetings, and we presented to City Council a few times to give updates. And last May, we did a presentation on to get authorization to request the construction funding from TAM. And now we're here again to talk about the construction finally. All right, so here are the project goals. This slide has actually been shown the last 3 times that I've presented at council too. So we've managed to maintain our goals through the project that we created during the feasibility study. I'm not going to read all of them, but one of our main goals was to improve safety for not only bikes and pedestrians, but for all users of the corridor. That's been our main goal for the project. I want to go into just kind of some of the things that we heard on the project. So these are things we heard that changed our initial thoughts or design considerations and altered them to work with the community based on comments that we received. So one of the items that initially in the feasibility study, we weren't showing a bike facility on 2nd Street, even though it's part of a bike and ped master plan. We didn't think it was feasible to fit within such a tight corridor through there. But once we got into the design, we were able to get topographic survey and figure out where exactly the right of way was. So we were able to squeeze in a bike facility through there, which I'll show later in some of my other slides. In addition, the initial bike path that we were showing, we actually had it ending at West Street because there's a future project that is going to reconfigure 2nd and 4th Street intersection to make it more of a T intersection. Instead of right now, it's kind of skewed, which makes it difficult for bikes and pedestrians to navigate across that intersection. So we originally ended at West Street because we didn't want to put in improvements that we were just going to have to tear out later. So we went back to the drawing boards and came up with an interim solution. That's one of the reasons we presented so many times to the Bike and Ped Committee, is to talk to them about the interim solution and if to receive buy-off on that solution. Also, one of the comments we received way back in the feasibility study was that the community wants to maintain parking in residential zones. So when we were initially looking at this bike path on 2nd Street, and what the Bike and Ped Master Plan was showing was actually a Class 1 multi-use path. So looking at that a little bit closer, there's actually less real estate required if we put in a Class 4 two-directional bike path with a separate sidewalk than there is to do a Class 1 multi-use path. So we converted the type of path in order to maintain parking, all the travel lanes, and even the left turn pocket that's there that goes into the shopping center east. One of the other things that we heard, although this is not part of the rehabilitation project, but I want to mention it, is that at the Lindaro and Luton's intersection, the initial proposal from the team was to actually close the driveway there at Walgreens. And after lots of discussions with different people from the public, we have changed that design to be an exit only to maintain access to the neighborhoods to the south. And then one of the other items that we heard was we wanted to make sure that we enhanced accessibility in sidewalks. And so I'll show you next that we did that or one of the ways we did that is by creating raised intersections. So here are some of the images that I've showed before, but so right now the existing cross slope of the road it's really steep and then it's flat and then it's steep. So in order to enhance the experience of a pedestrian or bikes crossing the street here, we've actually raised the intersections at A, B, C, and D Street so that the elevations of the sidewalk is the same as the road at the corners. And that allows this to be less steep. So it's a better experience for users. And then here's the Second Street bike facility that we added into the project through here, including the interim extension. And here's a section view that here at East Street. Some other comments we received was actually at East Street here. So right existing today, there is a rapid flashing beacon here for pedestrians to cross. So we actually put in a signal here to help with both pedestrians and bikes crossing Second Street, but also to help with vehicles who are exiting East Street and the shopping center through here, because now they can use the signal. Here's the interim solution that we came up with that we presented at BPAC. And so here, this is the class 4 facility that's on the road coming here, and you're going to the west, and then it separates so that the bikes actually have a light that they go through going westbound, and then going eastbound, there's a sharrow through here where the bikes are actually sharing the road with the vehicles. Like I said, this is an interim condition because as you can see, this is the 2nd and 4th Street intersection, which requires several crossings of different legs of the street for pedestrians and bikes. So the future project will be to clean this area up to make it easier for all users. Okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, I know there's been a lot of correspondence on the median trees that are on 2nd Street. I presented a similar slide at the last City Council meeting to show the implications of maintaining the median trees versus the bike facility and parking. So the yellow lines I've shown here is if the tree was to remain and we shifted the merge over, what would be the impacts here? So as you can see, there would be 4 to 5 parking stalls that would be removed through here. And in addition, in this location near West Street, it actually pinches the bike buffer so that it would be a non-standard bike path in this location. It wouldn't match the rest of it where we have a nice buffer between the bikes and the vehicles here. So one of the things that we're planning on doing as part of this project is, here's these green circles here. We're actually going to plant large diameter trees in the median. I'm showing 5 here. And we're talking about like 72-inch box trees that are 20 feet high in the median there, so that there'll be mature trees planted as part of this project. Oh, and then here's a cross section up here just to show that this green is the existing median, which is about 15.5 to 16 feet wide. In order to accommodate the sidewalk, the bike lane, the buffer, the parking, and 2 travel lanes, we actually have to reduce that down to 7 to 10 feet. So, and the existing tree is right here. So it's right, it'd be cut off by shifting the median over. I also wanted to just show that, so this is our existing corridor here between 2nd and 3rd Street. And the pink/red dots here are where we're proposing new trees along the corridor. So we're actually adding 46 new trees along the project limits. Another topic that I wanted to bring up is the B Street conversion project. So the reason I'm bringing that up as part of the 3rd Street presentation is because the 3rd Street project actually bid the project with B Street as 2 directions. So I wanted to just kind of bring up some of the benefits of converting B Street. So one of them is consistency. This is the last north-south one-way street downtown. Back in 2020, C and D Street were converted to 2 directions. So this is the last one of those streets. Another benefit is that it's a less around the block circulation. So if you're coming north from Safeway, if you want to continue to downtown, you will no longer have to make a right on 2nd Street, a left on A, circle back around on 3rd Street to explore the rest of downtown. It's also better access and visibility to storefronts because now vehicles will be going both directions. And then it'll be an improved parking experience too. So you're no longer stuck going one direction and then having to circle all the way around to find the next parking stall. And I just wanted to mention that there's more outreach to follow before implementation. This project's not implementing the B Street conversion. It has the conversion, but there's gonna be more outreach, there's more design, there's the lessons learned from C and D Street that we'll be looking at for the design of this project. So as far as the construction process, construction will probably take about 18 months, and we're hoping, assuming that the construction award gets approved, that starting in March of this year. And then kind of just to go over the general sequence of work. So first we have to get the underground in. So first goes the new water line, and the new sewer line will be first, and some of our storm drain improvements. And while that work's going on, along 2nd Street, we actually need to build the retaining wall along the hillside there and shift over the medians, because since we had pinched everything along 2nd Street in order to fit in all of the different needs, PG&E actually has to relocate their overhead poles. And in some cases, actually, they're undergrounding some of the poles on 2nd Street because there's no longer real estate for them to put their poles in. So we have to build our retaining wall to shift the hillside over so they can put in their poles along the hillside. And then in other cases, we have to shift over the median so that they can put some of their boxes there, because that's the section that's actually being underground. And also after all of those operations, some of them will be concurrently, but then we'll get into more of the hardscapes of the sidewalks and curb ramps at the intersections. And then eventually the new traffic signals will be installed. And then finally, we'll be able to pave and stripe late next spring. And the street trees are shown as last, but they're likely probably going to go in a little bit sooner, just because of we want to plant trees not in the summertime. And then construction hours. So the project is going to allow a lane closure during off-peak hours. So that means going in the eastbound direction on the 2nd Street side, between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., one of the lanes will be closed or can be closed. And then also in the westbound direction between 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. to kind of avoid the commute hours. And that will allow us to shift lanes. There'll be no parking that's going to happen during those timeframes so that construction vehicles can set up. And then the project will have night work. And so night work is going to be set for the utility work that's going to be east of Lincoln, because we don't want to close a lane underneath the highway, because that'd be a lot of traffic if we were to close a lane in that section and near the high school. And then also any work that would require us to close more than one lane would require night work. And then also all paving and striping will be at night. And then just to clarify, there is some work that the sewer district is doing as part of the 3rd Street project up on Miramar, and there'll be full closures of that road during the day, during different sections of it as that new sewer line gets placed. And then I know Mayor Kate mentioned it earlier, but we're planning on sending out weekly emails. So if you would like to be a part of our weekly construction emails, please sign up on our website. And then, we'll let you know, what happened that week, what we're planning on doing the following week, and just so that people will be more informed with what's happening out there. Now, as Director Guerin mentioned, this is a $20 million job. And just to clarify, it's not all city work. So the city is the one who's managing the project, but the sanitation district has a large portion of the 20 million, so does the Marin Municipal Water District. So they will be reimbursing the city for their portions of the work. And then the majority of the project is funded from the Transportation Authority of Marin, the Measure A and AA funds. And then there's a little bit of money from gas tax. RMRA is typically used for pavement rehabilitation. And then we have a little bit of funding from traffic mitigation and then a technology fund. And then if you need any additional information, our 3rd Street website gets updated regularly. We also have some frequently asked questions, exhibits that are on there, all of our past presentations, and as well as, here's my email and phone number, so feel free to call me and chat about the project. And that is it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, April. It's nice to see some of those slides again, as well as some new ones, so thank you. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. I'll start with Vice Mayor Kurtz. Go ahead.
Thank you. April, thank you for the update and for your work on this, and also to Mayor Kate and to Councilmember Bush. You guys have been following this for years. I went back to some of the 2017 videos and watching the conversation and the questions that came through around this project. And so trying to learn. I really appreciate projects that are really comprehensive and bring in other, like the water district and the sanitation district at the same time. I was trying to find out, and I started and didn't get there. When did those become part of the project? Because at the very beginning, I'm not sure they were part of the project. And then, that's what I couldn't figure out. And so I was trying to find out at what point did everyone say, wow, we should bring them in too.
Council member, I'll jump onto that one. We did not have them as part of the project early on. The intention originally was for them to do their work, and this is a common practice where we invite utilities to do their construction projects prior to us resurfacing a road. But we thought that would be extremely detrimental to the driving community in San Rafael, frankly, and asked them if they would incorporate their work into our project. Which we saw as a win-win situation. Not only does it compress the time, but we get to benefit from some of the money they would have used to resurface the road after they were finished. And we can put utilities in the same trench that they put things in. So it really became a very good opportunity. And SRSD and MMWD were both very interested in cooperating with us to incorporate these into the projects. I would say 2 years ago, probably we started sort of getting to that point, and April's worked very hard to sign agreements. Obviously, Lisa Goldfein was instrumental in that as well, to get agreements with the 2 utilities so that we know what the cost sharing is, we know what their portion of the project is, we know what we can expect from them in terms of their funding to help us rehabilitate the road. So it's turned out to be a very successful so far collaboration, and we really do hope it compresses the time of this project significantly.
That's great. And is PG&E the work of them doing the underground cabling? Because I find that, we get so many community comments of people, of wanting to have underground cabling. Was that originally part of this project, or is that also an additional add-on, not really an add-on, but a benefit of what's happening?
yeah, it was kind of forced on PG&E, I think is the best way to put it. And April's been, again, negotiating with them as well. But you can't fit everything into the corridor there at 2nd Street without them undergrounding their utilities. And I in a recent conversation mentioned 5 poles, but it's actually 9 poles that are going to be undergrounded on both sides of the street. So it's a significant, undergrounding project that I think is going to be, kind of very attractive in that area where the hillside comes down and the bike path's going to be. So we're excited about that. But PG&E, their first choice was certainly not to underground, and I think April spent some time convincing them that there's really no other direction that they can go, and they finally came around to her way of thinking and decided that they were going to underground these facilities.
Great, thank you. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We love that. Thank you, April, for that advocacy. Councilmember Bushy.
Yes, undergrounding is a great aesthetic and operational benefit. So thanks for capturing that with your persuasive skills, April. Speaking of persuasion, we have received some comments trying to persuade us to find a way to save some of those trees in the median. You didn't address those specifically. I wonder if you've had a chance to take a look at them and whether there's any feasible means to sort of find a middle ground and maybe save 1 or 2 of those trees and also achieve the goals of the project.
Councilmember, we have spent a considerable amount of time trying to save the 1 tree that is remaining in the median. Bill Carney and several other people from Sustainable San Rafael and others have made great suggestions to us to try to find ways to make to save that tree, and it is quite a magnificent tree in the middle of the street. We just don't believe it's feasible, and it's not our guess. It's having studied it with several the design team, our construction management team. We've really challenged them to try to find a way to make this work, and we do not see it as feasible to save the tree and meet the other goals of the project. I think early on, people that were concerned about parking came out quite strongly to the council, and I think you'll probably remember those conversations that they park on 2nd Street because there's simply not enough parking on the small streets above their houses. A lot of those houses are rental houses. They are, they have multiple families or at least multiple units in them with people driving their cars, and parking is a premium there. And of course, the bike path is something that has been a desire for the biking community in San Rafael and people that are commuting from, the western part of Marin County through San Rafael to the transit center and beyond. And our excitement around the idea that we can fit all these things into the project comes at the cost of the lone remaining tree that is unfortunately a little too far to the south, that we can't quite fit it into the median. So what we are proposing to do is replace 5 large caliper trees in its place. We know that's a huge loss of the tree itself, the carbon that it captures, all the things that happen there. But there is really, short of eliminating the bike path or eliminating the parking, as April showed in her diagram there, or in our mind, unrealistically reducing the speed limit to 25 for people, transiting the Miracle Mile into 2nd Street. We don't think people will slow down, and we think that'll cause a very dangerous situation here. So we think the best course of action to get all of these things combined into this project is to eliminate that 1 tree, but plant 5 other trees that are large caliber that will offset the loss of that single tree that was remaining.
So one of the specific proposals to eliminate 4 parking places to retain the tree. Is that proposal feasible? If we're willing to eliminate those 4 parking places, could the tree be saved?
that the answer to that is yes. There would be a pinch point, as April suggested, but the elimination of the parking could potentially save that tree. We're also concerned, though, council member, that the tree won't survive the construction process, and we'll have done all this for naught effectively. And when the 4th Street, the intersection of Miracle Mile and 4th Street comes together, that'll again require that the median be shifted anyway. So if we ever do that future project, the tree would be in peril at that time. So we really think the right thing to do is to remove it now, and have the complete project that we want to see, rather than hope that the tree survives and then potentially lose it when we come in with a follow-on project years from now when we can afford to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Urinskalati, any additional questions?
No, those actually were my 2 questions. Yeah, the one with the utilities, I have never understood. Growing up in a different, place of the world, how, we have still utilities going up into the air. But so I'm very happy about that. And yeah, I also feel very passionate about the tree. I know it makes everything very difficult, and I really appreciate, the staff going through this and, taking my suggestion of using maybe more mature trees to replace it. I will still suggest that, if we can do anything to keep it, it will be, amazing. I know, I'm hearing all the reasoning that you're doing, and I understand, but it's just really sad. So, so that's my comment.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, and I can't wait to comment on the tree, being that I do live in this neighborhood and I am a cyclist, and I do see that those parking spaces are used. So let's hear from the community. I'll ask the City Clerk to join us.
Thank you. To comment on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. And if commenting by phone, please press *9. Once you hear a notification that the host is inviting you to speak, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to provide public comment, and then they'll be muted once time has elapsed.
Thank you. We have received additional emails and letters that I think my colleagues had referenced, so we have read those as well.
Good evening, everyone. This is Amy Lykover. As you probably know, I'm involved in the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods and the Gerstle Park Neighborhood Association, as well as San Rafael Heritage. And what matters to, and what drew my husband and me to this town, and I think drew many, many people to this town, and continues to draw them, are the trees. So I come to speak to you for the trees. I'm grateful for the plans, April and Bill, that include so many trees. I would urge that they be shade trees. It's such an issue in our town, and hopefully London plane and or a native, and that they be provided sufficient ground around the, at their foot so that they can thrive and they don't have to compete with concrete. But especially at this point in time, I urge you all to think about not only how a community is defined by our progress, but it's also by what we don't knock down. So we don't knock down heritage buildings of importance, and we don't knock down, hopefully, heritage trees. And since by eliminating 4 parking spaces, we could save that beautiful London plane and treat it properly so it would withstand the construction. I think it sounds like a number of you would share my opinion that it would be worth that to do. So please consider that. Very grateful that 3rd Street is being improved and that there's a bike lane. That's wonderful. Let's maintain this welcoming tree on the west end of our town. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Yes. Hi, this is Wendy Callens with the Safe Routes to Schools program. I just want to express my appreciation to you and the Public Works Department, who have worked very closely with us. The Class 4 bike lanes that are going to go in on the west end there has a #1 priority for us, for students from the west end and the Sun Valley area to access Davidson Middle School. It looked for a while that the funding would not be available to be able to do this project. But again, April Miller worked her magic, and the funding was found, and it is included, and we want to thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing this project completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Hello?
Yep, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak. In light of the death of yet another cyclist, Pastor Greg Chisholm, a few days ago, while in an unprotected bike lane, it's past time for the council to take safety seriously and quit valuing a few vehicle parking spots, high vehicle speeds, and one tree over human life. Given the huge growth in e-bike sales for short-term distance shopping, San Rafael merchants need this project to gain better access to consumers from Green Hill and east. The two-way bicycle facility on the south side of 2nd Street project lacks a lot in terms of non-vehicle safety, but it needs to happen as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Good evening, Mayor Collin and esteemed council members. My name is Arlen Benavides and speak today as a member of Sustainable San Rafael. When I was a child living in San Rafael, watching the trees change colors and grow anew was as significant for me as having access to and utilizing other essential city assets. In regards to the 2nd Street London tree, I acknowledge that the valid intentions of fellow stakeholders in favor of the preservation or expansion of parking spots. The shopping center adjacent to the tree site is frequently used where it provides essential services to the community. However, I ask if it's possible that this strategy is a quick fix to a broader systemic challenge. In the conceptual drawings for the project site by DPW, there are three other options which preserve the London tree, and I strongly encourage that we all reconsider those and foreclose the other opportunity for interim solution. Specifically because the City of San Rafael has committed to long-term aspirations to practice sustainability and adhere to its complete street policy, which states that the public right-of-way is not only for cars, but also for bikes, pedestrians, and landscape elements, including trees. By maintaining natural assets, we would all consciously be adhering to design principles 4 and 7 in the Downtown San Rafael Precise Plan. Resisting quick fixes could amplify street safety for active transportation, which in the context of a system could reduce traffic congestion and the need for parking. Most importantly, we could maintain the essential operation of the London tree, which sequesters about a ton of CO2 climate pollution every 3 years. And this function is irreplaceable, especially as drought limits tree planting and use of irrigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlen.
Good evening. Good to see you all. This is Bill Carney, President of Sustainable San Rafael, and a bike advocate, by the way. So your task tonight is to balance multiple civic values, those of drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, parkers, neighbors, and not least the contributions made by this beautiful London plane tree to the character and the environmental health of Marin. Such trees are valuable members of our community. They are your constituents as much as cars, cyclists, and businesses. DPW's drawings show how this tree could be saved with little loss of parking by shifting the transition to the new street alignment east of the tree. Reducing the speed limit for these 2 blocks of 2nd and 3rd to match the 25 miles per hour posted for both streets to the rest of downtown would shorten this transition even further, saving more parking as well as the tree. That would benefit all other parties as well. Drivers, cyclists, pedestrians would be safer as well as the people parking. We believe that saving this landmark tree is well worth a few seconds of travel time and the loss of, we think, 2 to 4 parking spaces. In fact, the overall project west of E Street now shows a net gain of 6 parking spaces, more than compensating for the ones at issue here. In addition to the many other long-known benefits of trees to our community, this London plane tree is among the most effective species for reducing atmospheric carbon, largely responsible for climate change. We've shown how the tree can be saved, and we respectfully request your support of that objective. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. My husband and I are owners of 1811 2nd Street. We've lived here since 1987. We live on the property and we have 4 rental units. If we lose parking, we won't be able to have renters. And we rent to essential workers and workforce rent people, and the parking is just impossible. It's getting as bad as the canal, and I used to work in the canal for 30 years, so I know the parking situation there. I really plead for you to keep the parking. You're already going to put more trees in. We need the parking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, this is Judy Schriebman. Hello, good evening. I'm representing the Marin Group Sierra Club, and we also strongly encourage you to keep this mature London plane tree. You're already cutting down 3 of the 4. It seems a shame to cut down this last one. Climate change is no joke, and it's not a trivial concern for this city council or for those of us who live here. January, as you know, is hotter and drier than normal, and February is showing the same pattern. And unfortunately, this is what we're going to see. We're going to see monster storms, followed by periods of long drought periods, dry periods. And our ability to actually plant trees and have them grow and survive, as we have in the past, is actually seriously at risk. I question whether these large trees that you're anticipating planting will actually grow and thrive. I don't believe you'll see that. The precipitation scenarios developed by the Sonoma's Pepperwood Institute in 2011 show soil water deficits with climate change. This will create an intolerable situation for a tree to try to set down roots. It can't grow. It won't be able to. Even if you irrigate it, you will not receive the same benefit as keeping this tree in that place. It just isn't going to be possible. I think you'll regret destroying this beautiful tree for a handful of parking spaces that are being replaced elsewhere. There are also other ways of preserving neighborhood parking by restricting that to the people who live there that I know the cities have an option of doing that would answer that last woman's request. This tree actually serves a greater public good in so many ways than the parking spaces that I think for the health, the aesthetics, and the beauty that it provides.
Thank you, Judy.
Hi, Mayor Kate, members of the City Council. This is Warren Wells, Policy and Planning Director for the Marin County Bike School Coalition. First, this project predates me by a bit, but speaking on behalf of my organization and my predecessor, I do want to thank the council and the staff for all the hard work on this project. And we're coming here tonight in strong support. Today, riders have to squeeze into a tiny sidewalk or divert significantly out of the way to go to 4th Street to get between Greenfield Avenue and Points West and Gerstle Park. And this 2-way bikeway, will really improve that east-west access. I realize this is a tough vote tonight. As a Corliss person, I do strongly support the preservation, expansion of street trees. I think shade is incredibly important. But I am really impressed with the staff's commitment to planting dozens of new trees to this project. But I don't relish the idea of a loss of a tree for parking spaces. However, as one of the earlier callers mentioned, this past week did see another person lost in traffic violence. And I urge the council to maintain a safe and secure buffer between the bikeway and fast-moving traffic. We'll only bring about a mode shift with more people walking and biking rather than driving if those people feel safe and secure. If people like my sister with her 2-year-old, or people like my mom feel like they can get from where they're starting to where they're going without being under threat from fast-moving traffic. So Really appreciate all the work council and staff has done on this, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Warren.
Hi, my name is Maren DeGraff, and I live at 50 Fremont Road on the hill above the 4th Street Miracle Mile intersection. I use this intersection daily, and I would like to strongly voice my support for examining the roundabout solution that has been proposed. It's my understanding that this design saves the London plane tree. It doesn't remove any parking spaces. It eases congestion and reduces traffic speed. I see this as a win-win for all of the interested parties and issues that are at hand. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Maren.
This is John Reynolds, resident of the Canal, member of First United Methodist Church, San Rafael. I expressed interest in preserving that tree many years ago, but I'm supporting what Bill Carney says and what Ryder says and Arlen says. You know, I think of myself as a non-plant. You know, living things, plants, animals are part of nature in addition to human beings. I do appreciate people saying they need to have bike space, and that's of course true. And parking, well, there are other possibilities for parking. The person that just spoke talked about the roundabout. I didn't know that would be a possibility. But if there's any possibility of preserving that tree, the London tree, I appreciate that. Trees are as important as people and as important as bikes and parking spaces. We need to look at that and represent the plants, and we as the non-plants representing the plants in our midst. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Hello, my name is Eric Schmidt. I'm a resident of Larkspur. I've been a bike commuter and recreational cyclist for many years. I've specifically been riding 2nd Street west to east for at least 15 years, and have been eagerly awaiting this project for a long time. I want to thank the council members and the Public Works Department for developing such a progressive design for truly a complex location, and one that attempts to meet the needs of all the users there. And as we can hear from all the callers this evening, that's not easy. I would like to say that this is a very dangerous, as you well know, a very dangerous area for cyclists, and everything that we can do to improve safety. For people not like myself, I'm an experienced cyclist, but we're trying to invite families and kids and older people to feel safe on the streets as well. And that really means that we have to maximize safety. And in this case, we're trying to balance the needs of people who are parking, and all of us would like to save all the trees that we can in construction projects. And we also want to maximize safety for individuals. So I think having a buffer there between high volume, high speed traffic and the bike users and pedestrians is really crucial. And that would be my priority there. This is an opportunity for the city to develop a very safe bike facility. And that's the balance that I hope that you're able to strike. And again, thank you so much for all the work you've done in designing this project. And I think on behalf of the cycling community, present and future, we really look forward to having this project constructed in a short time frame. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
My name is Charles Pierce. I am the Vice President of Pierce Realty of San Rafael, and I'm also the owner of 1601 2nd Street in San Rafael, which is a 7,000 square foot commercial office building. And I would like to say that the city has done a beautiful job coming this far. In April, thank you so much for meeting with me and my son months ago, and you've done a great job. I am going to speak in favor of property owners. There's nobody that knows 2nd Street like I do. I've been there for 51 years, and the family's been there since 1954 in that location. And I really believe, and I love trees. I do love trees. However, I think that the original plan that you have is a plan that you should go with. And it sounds like you're going to be replacing more trees than you're taking out, if I'm understanding this correctly. And I really believe it is a terrible decision to take away additional parking across from Cafe Arrivederci and the gymnasium and the coffee shop, not to mention a lot of the low-income people that rent a duplex or an apartment on 2nd Street. These are low-income people that need a place to live. They need a place to park. So I just urge the City of San Rafael to proceed with the original project as planned. And I'm looking forward to this. I think the city has done a marvelous.
Thank you, Charles.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Cece Osborne, and I'm a junior at Terlinda High in the Marin School of Environmental Leadership, as I mentioned earlier. I recently learned that the 3rd Street Improvement Project, for the 3rd Street Improvement Project, a mature median tree at the western gateway to San Rafael was added to the 3 trees previously slated to be cut. This tree stands approximately 40 feet tall with an equal spread, a nearly 2-foot caliper, good clearance, and the space to continue growing through this century. It is estimated to sequester about a ton of carbon climate pollution every 3 years, an amount that will continue to grow with the tree. We need every sizable tree we have and many more to counter that pollution and provide us with cool, healthy streets in a stable climate. The city needs to decide whether to save this living landmark that is the brightest spot of 2nd Street's entrance to San Rafael, or sacrifice this beauty and environmental companion for a mere 2 to 4 parking spots. My generation wants a future that is more walkable and bikeable, which is why I appreciate the implementation of bike lanes. I'm also a part of the Terlinda High School mountain biking team, so I'm all for bike safety. And not only will replacing this tree with parking spots promote the use of cars and put us in the opposite direction of where we need to go, but it also then we won't have as much bike safety with the implementation of safer biking lanes. So I urge the city to sacrifice a few parking spaces and perhaps a few seconds of travel time to create a safer neighborhood and to protect a beautiful constitute of our natural community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cece.
Good evening. I'm Victoria DeWitt. I live in the neighborhood and support saving the London plane tree. For almost 40 years, I have enjoyed watching this tree grow and grace our neighborhood as I drive by or walk by it several times a week. It's short-sighted to remove this tree in order to save a couple of parking spaces, when the net effect of this project will increase the street parking overall. With the popularity of electric bikes, I think more residents, including tenants, may opt to use a bike in this urban setting and forego the expense of car ownership, further reducing the demand for street parking. The gym and the coffee shop have parking in the shopping center. Arrivederci, the parking has all been preserved for Arrivederci, and additional space was added across the street. So I don't see the saving the tree as a problem for Arrivederci. And I'm wondering, has the city hired an arborist to assess the tree, to come up with a construction management plan for the tree to protect it during construction? I'd be very interested to see an arborist's opinion about saving that tree. And also, I have concerns about the Marquard West End Avenue intersection. I saw another bicyclist speed through the stop sign the other day, and I want to know what you have done to address the problem of bicyclists flying through that stop sign, and what's your assurance that they won't fly through the new stoplight you plan to install there. I'd like to hear what has been done about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. And we received the letter that you sent as well.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and City Council. First, I would like to thank you each for your thoughtful commitment to sustainable practices. It makes me proud to be a resident of San Rafael. My name is Anlika Osborne, and I've been a Sun Valley resident for close to 20 years. I'm on the board of Sustainable San Rafael. One of the saddest days I can remember living in this neighborhood is when many of the trees were cut down on 4th Avenue in the West End. And I understand the sidewalks were buckling at the time and it was a necessary move. Many years later, the trees are starting to grow, but it's a slow process. In this case, I don't see a reason for the removal of the London plane tree. I drove by the stately tree today, and seeing this beautiful tree, it reemphasized its relevance to the entrance of our city. It is clear that our collective climate goal is to move towards safer biking and walkable cities, not adding parking spaces for more cars. I'm 100% for safe biking access, but I don't believe we need more parking spaces. We are in a climate emergency and need to sequester as much carbon as possible in the next decade. We need every large tree that we have and many more to counter carbon emissions and air pollution, which come mostly from gas cars. Let's plan for cool, healthy streets and a stable climate instead of more parking spaces, which is taking us in the wrong direction. As a neighbor of the tree, I know that there is plenty of parking in the neighborhood in the shopping center nearby. I urge the city to consider any way possible to retain the tree. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I see no other hands raised, so we'll give everyone a couple more seconds. I see some hands.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, this is Jean Seffringhouse. Thank you, council members and staff. I wanted to particularly commend both the City Council over the last 7 years that I've been coming to public meetings on this project, multiple walkthroughs with Safe Routes to School, multiple meetings with staff, and particularly commend Bill Guerin and April and Rafat for incredible negotiating with all of the various interests in the community. Very passionate meetings from people who work and live in the neighborhood and really need their cars to be able to go, to work far away where there isn't public transit, who are extremely upset about the idea that they'd lose their home parking. It's not necessarily something I would like to advocate for, but it's not that they're adding, as far as I know, new parking. I think it's a long negotiated amount of balance of the different projects. So just commend the staff. I remember what really makes me sad is there was a person killed along there riding a bike sometime during this process of talking in the last 2 years. So I'm scared the city might delay this project. It sounds like the compromises have been made about getting much larger trees put in. That's great. I hear there's 40 new trees put in the project. So kudos on a good compromise on a difficult decision. It is sad to lose big trees. It just is. But it's important that we don't lose more lives and that we address climate change by letting people of all ages and abilities safely bicycle and walk through here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean.
Hello, my name is Sunny Lee. And I just want to a few things pointed out. Our representative and where I live, Eli here, not able to present our neighborhood, but this presentation is quite conflict of interest for our district. If it's law allows, if Councilmember Elahi could appoint someone else to present as his position. Our neighborhood really appreciate it. 2-3 things I could talk about it. I will probably contact April and Director Birgiren outside, because the 2 minutes is not enough time to explain everything. But I have attended the BPAC meeting since February of 2020, almost every one of it. There's a presentation in October 2021, Vision Zero. It's one of the biggest thing about how to make the road, pedestrian, vehicle, bicycle safe. Effectively making two-way conversion on CAD created 9 additional left turn lane going opposite direction vehicle. That was presented in the meeting as one of the biggest unsafe practice for the Vision Zero's goal, and which has been approved by BPAC to go ahead, make a two-way to one-way. Also, if you go to the C Street and 2nd Street, you will see several cars coming from this street going around the circle. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny.
I see no other hands raised, so I'll give everyone a couple seconds. I see no public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment. So Director Garner, April, or maybe Rafat. So the 2 questions I had heard, one, I think there was some confusion about whether these were new parking spots or existing parking spots. So if you could clarify that. And then there was a comment about a roundabout option, which I don't think was presented. So if you could speak to both of those, that would be great.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll speak to the roundabout first. We did explore 2 options for the intersection of 4th Street, 2nd Street, and the Miracle Mile Greenfield Avenue, which is, as was suggested by several people, quite confusing now and very difficult for bicycles to traverse. We looked at that option. On paper, it had some possibilities, but it's a hugely expensive project. It requires real estate acquisition and would be, I think, completely out of reach of the resources that we think might be available for that project in the future. So that was a great kind of aspirational idea that really hasn't seemed to play out over time. So that's that. The T intersection is different. It does not require the large real estate that the circle might take, but it does affect the median there again. So in the future, if we realistically look at the intersection of 4th, 2nd, and Greenfield Miracle Mile, it's going to require that the median be modified. And again, the tree would be removed at that time. So if we intend to make improvements there down the road, short of creating a fairly monstrous traffic circle that takes over part of the gas station, part of the hillside area, the Greenfield area, it's not very realistic to do that. The other question that you asked about new versus existing parking, the net parking, I think, along the entire corridor, I asked this of our design team last week, is 4 additional parking spaces in the entire corridor from Union to the Miracle Mile. In this area, it's basically a net of, I think, 1 parking space less than it exists today. And most of the parking that we're saving is kind of more towards Rehabilitation in that end of this corridor than it is towards West Street and Marquardt. So a lot of the parking kind of gets pushed to the end where there's some available room and moved away from the houses that are closest to Greenfield here. So the net in this area is basically negligible, but in total, a total of 4 parking spaces. We always assume that the gym, I think the comment that was made, the gym and Rehabilitation, this isn't to serve those kinds of functions. So they do have parking, they do have commercial parking. Unfortunately, residents can't park in commercial parking. They have to have parking spaces on the street. Another comment I heard was, I think a reference to permit parking or excluding anybody except that parks in the neighborhood. And we've been exploring that in the canal area, and permit parking has its own challenges, including the requirement for having a fairly large area that it serves and some other challenges that just make it unrealistic and in this small community kind of above 2nd Street.
Thank you for that. And I will call on my colleagues in just a moment. I am going to go first, though. Usually I go last, being that I live in this area. I'm a cyclist. I can't wait for that T intersection. It's incredibly dangerous crossing that whole area. And to assure other folks that live in District 2, I'm very well familiar. And this is a trade-off. And I mean, Councilmember Bush and I think we first heard it. I can't remember the dates on that. And then Vice Mayor Kurtz were talking about it literally for years. And I was reflecting that the previous council, we also had conversations about the trees. So I know that DPW has heard loud and clear the importance of trees. And having heard that, this is the trade-off to have the safest bike lane possible. And we're putting in newer trees. And I'm sorry, Judy, I don't want to live in the world where future trees that we plant can't grow. We're better than that. We're going to plant trees and they're going to grow and succeed. And I'd like to remind my colleagues that a lot of the housing along there are rental units. And so those folks don't always have a voice in our council meetings. And we did have, I was pleased that one of the property owner called in who confirmed what I've known from living here for over 2 decades, that the rental units, it's an issue of equity for me. And if those, she's saying she has essential workers there, and we're going to say, we're going to value, and I do value trees. Oh my gosh, that's why I live in Marin County. Who doesn't value trees here? But I really want us to recognize those 4 people that I don't even know where they would park because they can't park in the commercial area. So there are lots of trade-offs. We're doing them being really conscientious, and I can't believe all the things that DPW has been able to squeeze in there. I can't wait for a bike lane that is safe and reflects the ability to have enable so all bike riding abilities can be able to use that place. I ride along there. I've been riding a long time, but I can tell you if I had an 8-year-old, I sure wouldn't do that today, but I will going forward. So I just wanted to mention that because I know my colleagues know San Rafael really, really well. But being keen to that, being really knowledgeable of the area, I wanted to start with that. So with that, I will pass it over and to each of my colleagues. And I think each of these have to do, it's in addition to the tree, which we heard a lot of public comment about, the 4 resolutions have to do with the reimbursement. So just be sure if you have, my colleagues, you have any comments you want to make on the specific resolutions, please do that as well. And I will turn to the Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Really appreciate all the community's comments and questions, and I understand the passion around the tree. I went to go visit and do a site walk around the whole area. But parking, trees, and bicycle safety, they're all important. But the safety of pedestrians and bikers is going to be at the top of the list for me. I understand, but we can't be a city where we're really trying to encourage walking and bicycle safety and not make project decisions that really make our roadways as safe as possible. There's been a lot of conversation today around parking. Hopefully soon we won't have to have conversations around parking and these parking spaces become not necessary. But as Mayor Kate said, right today, the people that are using a lot of these spaces need to have their cars to get to transportation or to get to their jobs. And so I think it's, where we're at today. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this project. I think the mitigating, the removal of the one tree and mitigating it with the planting of so many others is going to make a big difference in this corridor. And we're going to see a big change. And we're also going to see more people using bikes and walking. And that's what we want to encourage. So I appreciate it, all the work that's gone into this. And thank you, April and Bill and Rafat.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bushy.
This has been just a super tough issue for years. Really hard to make this call. Obviously, the bike lane safety and building that is paramount. The motorist safety and ensuring that traffic keeps moving smoothly through that area is also a sort of primary goal. Parking's probably more of a secondary goal. Maintaining the parking is a secondary goal, as is maintaining large significant trees in our city. And it's balancing those sort of secondary goals that we've been, at least I've been really struggling with. With the replacement trees, I know they're going to be good size. I'm sure they'll be watered and cared for on the right schedule, and they will grow eventually. It's cutting down that tree is that's just a tough call. Balancing it against the parking the parking spots that we could decide to lose. One thing I really do wish we had was an arborist study that would tell us, or would have given us some sense of the likelihood of that tree surviving construction, because I think that is a big question. Would it survive construction? And if it did, it's going to be in the sites of the eventual 4th Street realignment. So tough issue. Wish I had an arborist study. On balance, I know we've worked this for a long time, and I want to stick with the process and be true to the people who came to and spoke to us years ago now, and made their case for the parking, and that we carried that through. So while I really wish we had an arborist study, I will, with some misgivings, support the staff proposal.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Uran-Sculati.
So this is really difficult because, well, I guess the first thing is that I don't think, when we are talking about the London tree, I don't think that's going to, if you keep the tree, will diminish the safety of the bikers or the pedestrians. I live in Bret Harte, but I go biking on the loop, from Bret Harte to Green Bray, San Anselmo, and going back through that intersection. So I don't know how many times I have actually hit that pole that is right on the picture that you saw us. Part of me, I'm thinking about the future, and we are doing this because we want to see more people biking and walking. And, 40 years is a long time. And I've been having conversations with Bill and April, and I really appreciate your work because I know you have looked into everything. We were even talking about bringing mature trees. But given the current situations where we are with climate change, the environment is one of my 3 priorities in life. And I just cannot make the decision to cut that tree when I know that there are other possibilities. I'm in the parking committee for the canal. I know how challenging that is. There are also some options we are, considering, maybe like partnering with private owners, and city government to see if we can offer parking at night in those spots that they are empty during the night. So, and I know that I'm going to go against the council, which I usually don't like to do either, but I just cannot, my conscience doesn't, if we can do anything to actually, I think it's not only what it does for the climate, but I feel it's a symbol. And I love to go to San Anselmo and see all the beautiful, how do you call this? The center places where they have all the beautiful plants and everything. And I feel that in our city as well, that tree is a symbol to come into, like to welcome you. So I cannot vote on cutting that tree. I would love to do whatever we can to preserve it, given that it takes so long. So, but really appreciate all the work from our staff, and especially bringing so many trees and talking to everybody in our community, because I think it's been like a long process. I don't want to delay this either, but my conscience doesn't allow me to say cut the tree. So
thank you, Councilmember.
And if I may, Mayor Kate, a concern that I do have is I've seen in places where you have the same path for bikers and pedestrians, and I've seen broken bones and things like that. So that's something, just to keep in mind as we are, moving forward with this project, what we can do to keep both safe, not only from the traffic that I think it has to be, but also from pedestrians and bikers. So thank you.
Right. Yeah, Director Guerin.
If I just could make a quick comment at the end.
Yeah, please.
I just want to point out a couple things again. If we do the 4th Street interchange project, this tree is in jeopardy and will have to go at that time. I really appreciate the comments that everybody made about the challenge that this has been to decide to take this tree down or not, in the case of one of the council members at least. But we did consider everything we could about this. We also feel that the parked cars and the distance from the parked cars between them, the bike path, the parked cars, and then the travel lanes is a safety enhancement to people using the bike path. So we see that as a huge advantage, and it would be lost, at least in the one part, if we compressed the path and got rid of the parking in order to save this tree. So really appreciate the feedback that the community has given us. It was certainly not lost on anyone on the design team, and we worked extremely hard to try to save this tree. And I'm also very sad that in order to make a complete path, that tree is in the way of the complete path and does have to be removed if we decide to go this direction.
Thank you, and we appreciate the additional insight, because I know the design team has worked on this, and I know, Mary Beth actually alluded to this, is changing the miles per hour, and like, people can just go slower, but there are traffic implications, and then there's reverberations to both people that live in San Rafael and that don't, and so, and we already get lots of emails when people have to wait for the SMART train, so to making a design issue, and so before I ask for the call for a motion, I did want to let Councilmember Micah know, absolutely hear her. And I thought you had a really interesting example of the San Anselmo medians, because they actually cut down about 12 trees, and yet now what's there is really beautiful. So, and you were saying, so I think it is a change, but we all agree it is a loss, but the benefits and the trade-offs for the safety as well as for the renters that are there will be worth it, is what I'm hearing. But I would have to have a motion, and there are 4 separate motions because they have to do with, and actually as I turn it over, I also want to just underscore to April, to Bill, and to Rafat, getting all the agencies on the same page. And Councilmember Bushy and I know this because we're both San Rafael Sanitation District Board members. That is not easy to do, and that's one of the things that we're talking about. So just this kind of the mechanics of having a lot of agencies working in one place, that's what these resolutions are about. So with that, there are no other additional comments. Starting to read, I think there are 4 separate ones.
Mayor Kay, can I just ask, in these 4 resolutions, are they all, relevant to the discussion that we're having around the tree? Is there one specific, or are they all part of the same project?
That's a great question. I'll ask Director Guerin. I actually think they're all related to the project, but I don't think they're all related to the tree. But I will.
No, they're not all related to the tree. Absolutely, the two utility projects are simply incorporating the utilities into the project itself through agreements with the utilities that they will reimburse the project for their work. The construction management. The work associated with having a construction support team on board is significant to the project. it's something that we want to have full-time help with us to oversee the project, do the inspections. There's a lot of night work and there will be weekend work that requires, kind of around the clock inspection, and we can't staff that in-house. So that's what a lot of that is about. And the relevant project to your question, council member, is the construction award is moving the entire project forward. All the other component pieces are incorporated into the Gelati contract.
Right. So the one the $20 million project is the one, okay, that relates to.
That's correct.
One tree. Okay.
So that's the resolution I, like the first one, IA1.
It's the one that actually talks about the entire project costing $20 million. Which, yes.
Yeah, A1. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Which again, I have to underscore in terms of an infrastructure project, those are some eye-popping numbers. So, okay, with that, now I will entertain, if there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
I just have the staff report up, so I can read that, what it says in the staff report. So
I think that's sufficient. I have
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we adopt a resolution awarding and authorizing the city manager to execute the construction agreement for the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project to Gelati Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $18,248,707.54 and authorizing contingency funds in the amount of $2,551,292.46 for a total appropriated amount of $20,800,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill. Oh, he's absent. He's recused himself.
Right. Yep.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Scolati.
No.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 3-1. Next resolution. This is on the engineering one.
I'll take that one. You want to do
If does someone else want to do it, that's fine.
Resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with CSW Stuber and Stroh Engineering Group, Inc. for engineering construction support services associated with 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $117,000 for a new total professional services agreement of $1,042,782.
Thank you. I know the city clerk is so proud that we're reading every word. Yes. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 4-0. Okay, then remaining two have to do with the utilities.
Okay, I'll do the next one.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move that we approve the resolution, approving and authorizing the resolution, the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement with the San Rafael Sanitation District for the Schedule B of the construction contract, construction management, and material testing services for the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 4-0. Okay, one more.
Lastly, make a motion, resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement with the Marin Municipal Water District for bid Schedule C of the construction contract and construction management for the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeren Scolati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye. That motion carries 4-0. And again, thank you to the team. We are looking forward to $20 million worth of improvement along this corridor that can really needs it, and appreciate the community for calling in and expressing their values and what's important to them around this project. So with that, with San Rafael Successor Agency, we don't see anything. If any staff wants to jump on and wave goodbye. We'd love to see you, but we also recognize it is 10:30 at night. It was a great meeting. Thank you all for what you do every day. Oh, and Councilmember Hill, nice to see you. So stay safe out there, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. See you in a couple of weeks.
Good night.